Well, I turned the camera on, but it's not working.
Oh, okay.
Because
Well, this is the one. Bummer, I don't get to look at you.
no, we got the thing is we got that new Logitech that's plugged in for the YouTube, but I don't know if I don't know if the Teams is recognizing it.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute my mic when I'm not talking during your segments, and then when you go to break, I'll unmute it, and then we can communicate. You just yell in your laptop during a commercial break. Would that be an easier way to communicate?
You're talking about through the Teams?
Yeah, just we'll communicate through the teams.
Yeah, whatever works best for you, brother. I don't. It
I
doesn't.
was just trying something new, and then this way I can do hand signals, like you're trying to communicate with me, and I'll be like, hey, I'm on the phone.
That's
So
fine.
yeah, when I'm just trying something new. If this doesn't work, I'll communicate with you the normal way.
No, it all works for me, dude. It's all gonna
Cool.
be fine.
Cool. Yeah, I got 3 laptops and an extra monitor, so it's kind of ridiculous. And Dylan's not even here. He had to let me in during a lunch break.
Or he did?
Yeah,
Well, so
but he'll be here for the Blazer game.
he's at work then?
Yeah, he works at a Spanish radio station.
That's cool.
Yeah.
In a position to win that first game because
Dude,
obviously
my
throws
unmute.
it up, though. It's got
Okay.
a deep voice. He sounds like. What's that?
Cool. Yeah. Oh, I'm just doing going mute, unmute. And if this starts to suck mid segment, I'll disconnect or you disconnect. But I think this should work. Except for I don't get to. Oh, I'll see you on YouTube. That's a wrap. I'll see you and Dwight.
7-Eleven app for details.
Yeah, I think it's gonna work fine, Shacker. Team, and it's going to create some issues for the Blazers on the perimeter. So I think tonight would be a good night to really look to get the ball into DeAndre Ayton, and he can face up. All right, Burkhart, you got any keys in terms of what you're looking for tonight? Shoot orange orb through white. Shoot. I'm not going to cut it.
The open. So licensed music doesn't come out of your computer.
So simple.
What song do you guys
So
want
simple.
out of the open?
All right, let's. Boy George. I'm not going to cut
Done.
it. Make shots.
Wow, man.
I know. Good
Been
to
a
hear your
while.
voice. All right, let's go out to the phones. I think we've got my man.
Yeah, it's so simple. So simple.
All right, let's go out to the phones. I think we've got.
It's time for Chad Doing's Keys to the Game, brought to you by Gresham Toyota.
Not that song. Shacker. I can't hear. You're muted.
Try another song.
Yeah, come a chameleon.
Tire buying should be. Hey, pay attention, everybody.
Jack.
Tucker Carlson, Buck Sexton, Amy.
How about that one?
Myself, Dutch Mendenhall, are hosting an event. Have you ever felt like the wealthiest?
Yes, that's the one.
Even if you earn well,
Yep.
you have plenty of. That's why
Okay.
educate yourself.
I'm going back to mute.
Sunday on Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. It's the first of two highly anticipated meetings between NFC East foes as the Dallas Cowboys hit the road for a showdown with the first-place Philadelphia Eagles. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Danny White and myself for all the action as another chapter in this longtime rivalry is written. Can Dak and the Cowboys get it done on the road, or will Jalen Hurts and the Eagles be too much? It's the Cowboys and the Eagles. If it's the NFL, it's right here.
1 p.m. Sunday afternoon, 620 Rip City Radio.
All right,
Buy a seat for the Breeders' Cup World Championships, and chances are you won't use all of it, just the edge, because that's where this experience is going to have you, on the edge of your seat to witness the brightest stars from all around the world, on the edge of your seat for the long shots, the upsets, and an experience that's truly a breed apart. November 3rd and 4th at Santa Anita Park, they'll come from around the globe to keep you on the edge of your seat. Get tickets today at breederscup.com. That's breederscup.com.
Lowe's knows pros want savings now. That's why, as an MVP's Pro Rewards member, you get volume savings on orders of $1,500 or more at the Pro Desk. And there's more. We've lowered our prices on select top products like electrical wire and drywall, so you can get the job necessities for less. Because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. In-store only. Exclusions, restrictions, and more terms apply. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Some days, my active psoriatic arthritis makes it hard to get in the game. Now, the ball is in my court, thanks to treating my skin and joints with Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150-milligram injection for adults.
Nothing is everything.
Skyrizi helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
I don't understand why the camera's not working.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything.
Well, let's worry about it maybe at 6 o'clock.
Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi and visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Why is iHeartRadio the #1 streaming radio app? Free music.
Free live radio stations.
Please stab your laptop if you haven't already.
All right, what's going on, my friends? It's now 3 o'clock. The Trailblazers are back home tonight for a plat out. Memphis is in town for the first of 2. Tip-off at 7. I'll have game day starting at 4:30. Tom Habistro of the Blazers will join Dwight Knight coming up at 4. Scoot Henderson will not play tonight with a sprained right ankle. The Oregon Ducks are home tomorrow. Host Cal 2:30 on Pac-12 Network. Ducks favored by 24.5. They're number 6 in the initial playoff rankings released Tuesday. Number 5, Washington at USC. 4:30 kick on ABC. Huskies a 3-point favorite. In Oregon State looking to bounce back after that loss at Arizona.
They meet CU in Boulder. Kickoff at 7 ESPN. Beavers favored by 13.5. The Buffs have elevated Pat Shermer. He'll take over the play calling duties for Sean Lewis, hoping to find a spark for the offense and more protection for Shadur Sanders. Rip City Drive with the White and Chads coming up next. We got a pair of tickets for Chris Stapleton and AEW Wrestling to give away on the show today. Listen for your chance to win. All right, Godfather, we made it. Another Friday is here. The weekend is upon us, and we have a lot of great football games coming up tomorrow, which is terrific. How you feeling today, my friend? What's up, Godfather?
Well, Chad, I'm a little nervous today because, today's the first game of that in-season tournament. And I'm kind of on edge, because I'd like to see the team win and get off to a good start in this in-season tournament. And I don't think the tournament has a name yet, which probably means they couldn't sell a sponsor on it. Because it should have a sponsor's name attached, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
thanks to Adam Silver and all the great things he wants to give basketball
I was
fans.
shocked he couldn't find a sponsor for this very important tournament that's going to go on.
Gosh, it's such a joke. And the problem right now is that no one really knows what's going on. The players don't understand it. The fans don't understand it. But we know it kicks off tonight. The Blazers will take on the Grizzlies. I'll have game day coming up at 4:30. The Oregon Ducks. I'll get to this here in just a moment about the committee and how you cannot trust the committee and you do not want to leave any doubt in those people's minds when it comes to selecting their 4 playoff teams. But they host Cal tomorrow. It's at Autzen. They're a 24.5-point favorite. It's pretty simple, right? Just go out there and do what you do.
Yeah, I would say go out and do what you do and do it quickly. I think it's really important against a lesser team to go out and establish yourself in the first quarter. This is what they did at Utah, and it worked so well at Utah. They completely took the crowd out. They took Utah out of that game and established the fact, you know what, boys, you're not going to win. We're going to win this game. And I think you need to do that. You can't give Cal hope because they're better than they have been. They actually have an offense now capable of scoring more than 1 or 2 touchdowns a game. So you want to just jump out on them, make sure they understand who the better team is.
And I fully expect them to do that. This Oregon team feels different to me than some of the teams in the past. Meaning, I think Dan Lanning will have this group focused and ready to go. And hopefully they all understand by now after the loss to Washington that they've got to take everything seriously. They've got to focus on the details, and they can't allow for any more slip-ups if they want to get to where they want to go. I would imagine Lanning's got all attention from his guys. And that's a good thing as a coach to know that the guys are dialed in and ready to go. But I know it is with youngsters, right? 18, 19, 20-year-olds. They pay attention to what people say. They're a 24.5-point favorite. This is a team they should dominate. I know Cal they're middle of the rung. They're not awful, but they're not great. This is a team that Oregon should handle and handle easily. And like you said, have this game put away sometime before we get to halftime.
Oh, for sure, Chad. And really, it should be a lot quicker than that. Actually, when you talk about a 24.5-point favorite, that's a lot of points. And so we haven't really seen the Ducks have a off week or a down week or anything like that so far. And I don't know if that means they're going to have one at some point because most teams do, or if it means we're past that stage.
Yeah.
This is one of those really good teams nationally that just never has that game.
I agree. I think here's the reason why it's important for them to take care of business. Just go back to the playoff rankings that were released on Tuesday. If you look at the rankings, they got it right in some ways and they got it wrong in other ways. Ohio State was number 1. I have no problem with that right now based on who they've played. They beat Notre Dame on the road. They took care of business at home against Penn State. That's fine. But then you have teams at 2 and 3 in Georgia and Michigan who have nothing on their resume.
Mm-hmm.
So why should they be number 2 and 3? Is that just the committee looking at the eyeball and saying, well, it's Michigan and Georgia. We think they're pretty good. They haven't played anyone yet, but we'll put them at 2 and 3. That's what it feels like to me. Florida State at number 4. They've got the win over LSU. They beat Clemson. Those 2 wins are okay, and Florida State's undefeated. But my problem with that is that Washington's sitting right behind them at 5, first team out. Why is Washington, who's undefeated, sitting at 5 with Florida State at 4 when Washington's got the better win? They beat Oregon, which everyone agrees is one of the best teams in the country. So I hate the fact that both Pac-12 teams are on the outside looking in today. It gives me a little bit of a pause in terms of what the committee's thinking. So going back to your point about the Ducks taking care of business, not only should they take care of business, they should really try to pound every one of their opponents into submission to leave no doubt that where they sit in the hierarchy in college football this year. Because here's what I'm concerned about. All of this is going to shake out, but here are some things to be concerned about right now. Number one, what if Florida State goes undefeated? If they don't lose a game, they win their conference championship, and based on their schedule, it's quite possible. Is the committee going to suddenly drop them out of the top 4 compared to a one-loss Oregon or a one-loss Washington? I don't know. The other scenario that's brewing right now would be the SEC, where, Georgia's probably going to finish up the season unbeaten and get to the SEC title game based on schedule. Alabama also is in a position where they could reach the SEC title game with one loss to Texas, get the rematch against Georgia. If they were to beat Georgia and both teams are sitting there with one loss, what if it's a close game? Is the committee only going to put one SEC team in, or will they put both Georgia and Alabama in if it's a close SEC title game, assuming the Crimson Tide were to win that game? That's a concern. Also got to keep an eye on Oklahoma and especially Texas, who's sitting there with one loss, but they're going to get a rematch more than likely with Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game.
Right.
There's enough things that are out there to leave you to wonder what the committee may do. We assume that Michigan or Ohio State will get in based on the Big Ten, and those two teams are going to face up at the end of the year. Michigan's got a tough game at Penn State before they have to play that game at the end of the year against Ohio State. I don't trust the committee. I never have, especially when it comes to the Pac-12. So that's why I think it's important for Oregon to just go out there, annihilate competition, and leave no doubt. And then when you get the rematch against Washington in the Pac-12 title game, win it convincingly, and then you put the pressure on the committee to make sure that you get in. Don't leave any doubt in their minds that you're one of the 4 best teams in the country, because I think this might be the best Oregon team of all time. We'll find out, but I would hate to see one of them get punked based on the committee's lack of integrity in terms of how they rank these teams.
Or simple bias against West Coast football.
Yes.
Which I think has existed.
Yes. And although we see it, we know the Pac-12, this is the best I've ever seen the conference.
Yeah.
But here's the other problem, too, for Oregon if the Pac-12 continues to play out the way it has. Let's say that Washington loses to USC and Oregon State, which is possible. I think they're going to. Well, then all of a sudden that rematch against Washington loses some of the luster because they're not unbeaten anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon State, based on the way things are going, may add another loss before they enter the Civil War game. And then you look back at the Utah win on the road. It's like, yeah, they did it convincingly, but Utah was beat up and injured. How's the committee going to view these games or the rest of the Pac-12 when we get to the end of the year and then we see where Oregon State, where USC, who's down, obviously, how are they going to look at the rest of the conference then? I don't know.
Chad, it comes down to the same thing it's come down to for years now, and that is you not only have to win the games, you have to pour it on.
Yeah.
You got to win by as many as you can because it's a beauty contest. It's not fair. It's a beauty contest that's crooked in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and they say it's not supposed to be a beauty contest, but it's a beauty contest.
Yeah, until we get to the point, hopefully next season, where conference champs get in. No disputing that. You're in. And until we get to that point, it's just, well, who do you think looks the best? I don't know. Who do you think looks the best? Well, Alabama's been pretty good for us the last several years. Georgia always gets pretty good TV ratings, 2-time defending champs. You got to have them. And then, Ohio State and Michigan played a pretty close game. Maybe they both should go in.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you're way out of it. Yeah, and it's not fair.
And the bottom line with Oregon this year, there are no excuses. If you look at the rest of their schedule, they shouldn't drop a game until they get to the Pac-12 title game. They're that good. You have a quarterback with tremendous experience. Your offensive and your defensive lines are playing well. The defense has come along nicely as the years progress. You've got a good coach in Dan Lanning. You can run the football and pass. Your incredible balance with the offense. You should go out there and dominate.
Yeah, you got a lot of future NFL players on your team, too, which I think that also speaks to how good you are.
Yeah, you're right. NFL talent. Now, how will Oregon stack up against the best of the best? I don't know, but I want to see them get a chance to do that in the playoff.
Yeah, and look, I'm a Pac-12 guy, have been my whole life. I don't care who wins this conference. This has been a great year for the Pac-12. Whoever wins that conference should be involved.
Yes. It's been a great year.
Yeah, and conference losses, I'm sorry. You can't just write them off this year because they're playing really good teams.
Yes.
These guys are all good teams.
Oregon State's good. Arizona's on the rise. USC is not as great as everyone thought they would be, but they're still a dangerous
They got a
football
Heisman
team.
quarterback.
Absolutely. All right, Colorado has won more games than what people thought before the year began. Yeah, there's quality play throughout the conference.
Yeah.
And that's why the games have been so great. And that's why this weekend's going to be terrific because you've got Oregon taking on Cal. Oregon State goes to Colorado, Washington and USC, and an underrated game that's late at night at 7:30 on FS1, UCLA at Arizona. That's a good football game. Yeah, so we'll see how it shakes out, but it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of things to get to. We've got a pair of tickets for Chris Stapleton we'll give away, and a pair of tickets for AEW Wrestling. And we'll talk a little Wemby, too. He looked pretty good last night.
Oh, man.
Not bad for a youngster.
That kid's going to be okay. I think the Rookie of the Year voting is already done. It's decided.
All right, it's pretty simple, Duck fans. Go out there, handle business, and do so convincingly, and leave no doubt in the minds of the committee on where they belong at the end of the season. Everything they want is right in front of them. Now it's a matter of going out and taking care of business. We'll come back. We'll talk about Wemby and that performance last night. In the Spurs' victory over the Suns, Wembanyama was phenomenal. And then we'll get to Oregon State and Colorado and some of the changes we're going to see in that game as Colorado looks for some answers to provide more protection for their quarterback, Shadur Sanders. That's Dwight. I'm Chad. You got the Rip City Drive. You can reach out to Dwight at Dwight James. You'll find me at Chad and Rip City. Telephone number 503-248-0620. Tom Habistro of your Trailblazers is going to stop by and talk ball at 4. Hey, Shacker, are you running YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, I just got a message, and this was like right when the show was starting that said, your voice is going out over the YouTube stream saying you don't understand why the cameras are not working, and I'm not sure commercials are playing there as well. He said, I also can hear your producer talking on YouTube.
Organization is accused of bias against white men and diverse
I'm communicating through your mic was on, so I'm communicating through the laptop so you can communicate with me without your mic on. Your mic must have been on. I didn't catch it. The reason I wanted to do this laptop is so we can communicate without having to turn the mic on. Now we could still communicate without turning the with turning the mic on and not be on YouTube. It's just a different setting. I was just trying something new. So your mic must have been on and it was streaming.
I could go through my...
I hear you loud and clear. Teams, talking to your laptop. Your laptop is on. I mute. Yeah, we're see, my voice should only be coming out of your laptop right now because we're doing a team. Wow. Was your mic on earlier? I mean, I just. Well, then Teams must always work no matter if your mic is on and off. I assumed you were on your laptop. That's what I assumed I was picking your voice up from. Will do. Will do.
All right, technology is pretty amazing. I am talking to Michael Shacker, who's somewhere in Colorado right now as he gets ready for the Beavs and Buffs.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing him through my phone. I'm communicating to him down the line, and we're using cameras to do all sorts of other things. This is just mind-blowing to me. And by the way, I'm looking forward to our little December 1st date that we have out at El Gaucho. We're set, baby.
Yeah. I had almost forgotten about you owing me a dinner at El Gaucho. And then I give you all the credit in the world. You brought it up after the show last night. It's like, we need to make a reservation. It's like, yeah, that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
So
we're
we
in.
go. Yeah.
And I put in a little note in the reservation requesting Ian, who is your favorite server. So
Yes.
I know we'll get good service when we're down there.
Yeah, Ian, if you're out there on your way to work right now, maybe we'll see you December 1.
I'm going to go red meat that night. It's a rarity for me,
Get
but I'm going
outta
red
here,
meat.
really?
Yes, I am. I'm going to go red meat. I'm going to sit back and enjoy myself. The reason why I wanted a Friday is that I know that after I consume a big meal with a lot of delicious meat, I'm going to need some time to recuperate. I don't want to get up the next morning and have to be on the ball and have to worry about work and stuff, man. I'll be in a slumber, my friend.
Well, we could probably have a nice romantic dinner of Chateaubriand for two. You'll love it. You'll love it.
All right, that's going to be a lot of fun. Wemby last night. Spurs over the Suns. It's not too often that I see Dwight excited to talk about something like this, but 38 points, 10 rebounds, 15 of 26 from the floor. He blew you away with the way he went out there and dominated both ends.
He did, Chad. I mentioned to you earlier, in the old days when all these good 7-footers started coming into the game, people used to talk seriously about, we ought to think about raising the baskets. Because it's really not fair. These guys are so tall, they don't even have to jump sometimes to dunk the ball. So I always laughed at that until I saw Wemby last night. He is a one-man cheat code. He is incredible. 38 points, 10 rebounds last night, and beat the Suns for the second time in 3 days in Phoenix. And he made it look so easy. I mean, he can do so many things for you at both ends of the court. Chad, they would lob to him, and you can lob to him so high, he can go up and get it. No one else has a chance to get it. And then he just comes down and dunks it. One time last night, he threw a pretty finger roll in from right out front of the basket. It's just, and then on defense, he's such a threat. He keeps people out of the paint. I mean, he's amazing, the impact he's having as a rookie. I knew he'd have an impact. We both saw him and knew he was a generational player for sure. But I did think at his size, and, I thought he'd get pushed around a little more than he's getting. I thought it would take some time for him to adjust to the NBA because most guys take a year to get ready, especially the big guys. They develop slowly. This kid is so at home right now that I actually believe San Antonio is going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I do think that.
Well, I don't think that's a crazy take at all. They should make the playoffs with Wemby.
Gosh.
He's an amazing basketball player. I never understood all the nonsense with people who were skeptical on Wemby. He is, well, just look at the highlight package. Look at where he played, the skill level coming from France, the guys he played against. He came in NBA ready. I never bought into the nonsense coming from the Spurs camp that they were going to take it easy on Wemby. Why? The guy's ready to play right now. Maybe they're trying to reduce some of the pressure that he might feel coming in. It might be the best spot that he landed there because the Spurs are beloved in that town. It's not a big media market. It's a place where he can settle in and focus on playing some basketball. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I guess my question would be this. What's going to be the response from the NBA on how to defend him? Back in the old days, they just would have gotten physical with him, but now you can't touch guys.
He's going to get protection, be my guess, because he's going to be such a drawing card. Nobody in that league office wants to see him get pushed around, take the chance of him getting hurt. He's going to get eyeballs on TV, in the arena, wherever, Chad. And the sad thing is, Portland came so close to that pick.
One ping pong ball away from getting him.
So close.
That would have changed everything.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. He's that much of a difference maker. Scoot's nice, but he's not in the same stratosphere as Wemby.
Nobody is. I'm telling you right now, nobody is. He dominated Kevin Durant.
Yeah. They had to take Nurk out of the game because he simply just, it's not fair.
Oh, totally overmatched. Yeah. It was, he plays outside and inside. And when he plays inside, there's nothing you can do. When he plays outside, 3 for 6 from 3 last night. Now, he's still not a polished three-point shooter. He's not going to shoot that well all the time, but he's enough of a threat. You have to go out there.
The other part, too, think about how many shots he's going to change that won't be blocks, and it won't even go down on the stat sheet.
Oh, it's incredible, really.
Yeah, and particularly annoying that Greg Popovich got him and now will be once again discussed as a savant. Because it's that difficult to roll Wemby out there and figure out how to win basketball games.
Well, you tell me, how do you get David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and Wemby all in the lottery? Now, is somebody playing with those ping pong balls? Is it time for some sort of conspiracy theory? Come on.
I know.
How realistic is that?
I know. I normally would buy into that, but if you're the NBA, why would you want to send guys to San Antonio?
Yeah. Well, unless they think, hey, Popovich is going to make him a superstar, and he needs Popovich.
You and I can make Wemby a superstar. Yeah, that's really difficult.
Yeah.
Take the worst coach. Maurice Cheeks can make it work with Wembanyama.
Well, be careful. Be careful now.
All right, keep an eye on Wemby. He is phenomenal. Beaver's going to travel to Boulder to take on the Buffs. Sean Lewis has had his play-calling duties stripped, and Pat Shurmur, who has been around football forever, most recently was the offensive play caller for the Denver Broncos.
How'd he do there?
Not so well. Part of that could be the talent that he had, but I know a lot of people took issue with his offense and his unwillingness to adjust the offense based on the players that he had. But my guess here is pretty simple. The Buffs know that in order to win games, they need to score and score big because of the liabilities they have on defense. They also know that Shadur Sanders is everything to their offense. He's been taking a lot of hits and a lot of sacks, and he's under a lot of pressure. So I figure they're looking at Shurmur, who's experienced, to come in and find a way to come up with plays to generate a little bit more in the run game, but also find some plays to get the football out of the hands of Shador so he's not in a situation where he's going to take so many hits, because it can ill afford an injury to Shador. They need him on the field and being productive to have a chance to win games.
Yeah, I think it's kind of rough on a guy like Sean Lewis, who's an up-and-comer in the business, was hailed for the job he did at Kent State. Is that where he was?
I think it's Kent State.
Kent State, I think, yeah. And he left a job as a full-time head coach to come there and be a coordinator. And now he's not going to be the play caller. When just half a season ago, like 4 or 5 games ago, he's being hailed as, look what these guys are doing on offense. They patchwork this thing together with guys who are in the transfer portal, and they're scoring a ton of points. They still are. And their real problem is on the other side of the ball, where they're one of the worst defensive teams in the country.
Well, I think their biggest problems is pretty simple. Their offensive and defensive lines, which we all knew that you can solve a lot of problems in the portal, but it takes time to go through the recruiting cycle to get the guys up front on both sides of the ball that you need. And so, you can only do so much patchwork before you go up against teams that are just stronger at the line of scrimmage, at the point of attack, and then everything starts to fall apart. That's the real difficult part they're up against. I just hope Oregon State's ready, because the one area where they can be hurt is on the outside with the playmakers and the speed. Colorado does have that. Shadur Sanders is one of the best quarterbacks in college football. He's accurate. His numbers are impressive. The Beavers are going to be in for a dogfight tomorrow. That's going to be tough, and they better come out ready and focused and make sure that their communication in the back end is strong, because if not, they can give up big plays, and you don't want to get yourself in a track meet in that building at altitude. You don't want that. You want to take control of the game, spin clock, run the football, and play to your strengths, right? I hope they do that.
Well, it's like Al Davis used to say, too, the quarterback must go down, and he must go down hard.
Yes.
They got to get pressure on him. That's their only chance. If they allow him time with their receivers against Oregon State's back four, that's a problem, because they're going to score a lot of points. They're quicker, faster. They have good receivers. They're solid, and they're going to run them silly in the defensive backfield if they don't get pressure. They got to make him throw in a hurry.
I'm worried about that game for Oregon State.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a problem spot for them, and we've seen Colorado throughout the course of the season. They can put points up.
And that's a problem for Oregon State, because Oregon State can put points up too, just not as many. They take longer to score. So, again, you better get out front in this game and dictate pace, dictate tempo. And I'm not feeling so good about Oregon State after last week, to tell you the truth.
Nor should you.
Yeah.
The problem, too, with Oregon State, like the times that they get away from the run game. Why? Why is it so hard for these offensive coordinators to just understand, like, hey, we can win this way. Let's just continue to be patient and run the football. We got two capable backs. Our offensive line is experienced. We can ram this ball down their throat. They got away from it against Arizona, and I still don't understand why.
All the OCs think they're driving Porsches, and they want to step on the gas at all times. Some of them don't happen to have a car like that. Some of them are driving their Buicks, and they need to just keep that thing at the proper speed and just study as you go. They're impatient. They're all impatient. Let's throw the ball down the field. No, you don't have to. Just why take a chance? Gosh, I'm sorry. I'm old school. 3 things can happen when you throw the football, and 2 of them are bad.
It's true. Yeah, a lot of bad. How much of this do you think is a father trying to protect his son from getting hurt?
Well, I think there is some of that. I know he's always emphasized, I'm your coach. When you're on the field, I'm your coach, not your dad. And then last game, there was video of him kissing his son on the cheek on the sidelines, which, more normally head coaches don't do that with a quarterback. But, yeah, I think there's some of that. And I can't even blame him. If it was my son, I'd probably do the same thing. But there's also, you could say, look, we won't have as much problem on defense if our offense could hold on to the ball, run clock, score points, and get us out in front in the games.
Yeah, I think Colorado's going to win that game.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 upsets this weekend. I like USC over Washington, and I think Oregon State's going to stumble at Colorado.
USC's not an upset, though, right? Or
Washington is favored.
That's right. They are favored.
Yeah. So if USC beats them, that would be an upset, because I think the majority of people view Washington as a superior team to USC. Don't they?
Yeah, they do. I think Washington's going to win the game, though.
Yeah.
I do. I just think USC's down the tubes, quite frankly.
Well, I've watched Washington the last couple of weeks. They're not exactly high-flying right now.
Yeah, but they're going to score points on USC.
And USC is going to score points on Washington. They score points. I'm not worried about Caleb. They will score. I'm just telling you, you watch how this game's going to play out. Washington's going to try to run the ball early. It's not going to work, and they're going to abandon it, and then they're going to put their quarterback on an island having to make plays every single down. And I don't care how bad your defense is. When you know what's coming, it's much easier to adjust and play based on the fact that a team's not even going to try to run the football. There's no element of surprise. There's no play action. That's easier to defend. And USC's got some guys up front that can put pressure on the quarterback. I'm not saying that USC's some type of barn burner on defense. I'm just saying that Washington is primed for an upset right now. Not playing well, not taking care of business, not even attempting to run the football. I just don't like teams that lack severe balance. I don't like it.
Yeah. You well could be right. I just have that feeling that the Huskies are just not playing up to snuff because they're overconfident. They know they're going to win these games, and when they
know,
yeah, I think they feel that way. I'm not saying they.
Well, that's a good way to get yourself beat in this conference.
Well, of course, and they almost did, but they didn't. And they're still undefeated, and I think they're going to go in there and play like the team that they actually are, which is much better.
Do you think they're going to run the table?
Yeah, until they get to the conference title game.
So you think they're going to beat USC and beat Oregon State
I
and be
kind of
unbeaten going to the
I've
conference
thought
title
all
game?
year Oregon State would beat them. I'm not feeling it now after last week.
Yeah, I would be surprised. Washington would surprise me if they come out and win that game.
Yeah.
But, who knows? We'll see.
Well, it's like you always say, we're talking about 18 and 19 and 20-year-old kids, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Although in the case of college football now, we're talking about some 22-year-old men, but
well, the one thing I do know about that game, there's certain players. Like I know Caleb Williams will be ready to ball, and I know Michael Penix will be ready to ball.
Absolutely. But which one of them gets the most help? That's the question.
How many scouts are going to be at that game?
Yeah, a ton.
Paying attention to the quarterbacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it would be beneficial to Oregon if Washington continued to win football games. So that way, when those two teams rematch in the Pac-12 title game, that would be a more prestigious victory, right? If you're taking on an unbeaten Washington in the Pac-12 title game and you get over on them, that's much better for Oregon. So I think if you're a Duck fan, you're right. You want Washington to win games. You don't want them to take a tumble to USC, and you do not want them to lose to Oregon State because you want that win to mean everything. You get that rematch, and you're taking on an unbeaten Washington team that's won every game on their slate, and you take them out in the Pac-12 title game, that's going to mean more because that means Washington would likely be a top 4 team at that time.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, for a while, I was hoping that the scenario would have been lose to Washington or lose to USC, I mean.
Yeah.
Then Oregon State beats them, gives them 2 losses. Okay. Then you're looking at a scenario for Oregon State and Oregon to meet with a lot on the line.
I'm just disappointed with Oregon State. The 2 losses. You lose to Washington State on the road because you get down early because you had no answer for Cam Ward.
That was a brutal loss.
That was really unfortunate because talent-wise, they're better. And then you go into this game last week against Arizona after a bye week, and they just weren't clicking. And a bad call combined with getting away from the run game and an inability to get off the field at the end of the game was just frustrating.
Chad, they didn't play well that whole game, I didn't think. That was really an off week for them.
And I guess what it is, too, maybe Oregon State's just not as good as I thought they were going to be.
Well, I think you have to, at some point, draw that conclusion.
Yeah, and respect to Arizona. That's a team that's on the rise, no question. But, yeah, I think that's what it is. Oregon State's just not as good as I thought they were going to be.
Well, I can defend the Arizona loss much more than I can the Washington State loss now that we've seen the way everybody else has handled Washington State. I mean, that team's just flat out not that good.
Well, 4 straight losses. Yeah, look at them. I mean, they're struggling. They got pounded by UCLA. They get pounded by Oregon. They got pounded last week by Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting crushed. Not looking good either. So, I don't know. Yeah, frustrating. But for Oregon, yeah, I think it's better. Washington, if you're a Duck fan, let them win games.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's hard to do that, but it's probably better resume-wise if that team enters the Pac-12 title game unbeaten. What I'm afraid now is that you could get, just that classic Pac-12 situation where teams beat up on each other. USC takes out Washington. Oregon State takes out Washington, and all of a sudden, Oregon's sitting there in the Pac-12 title game against a team that's fallen out of the top of the ranks in college football. And then the committee's going to be like, well.
Yeah, beating them then doesn't matter as much.
No. That's how they'll look at it, right?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Okay, I want to ask you this question, too, about college football. I've grown up out here. I've been out here for a long time, so I have a lot of love for the Civil War.
Right.
I also grew up in Oklahoma. My dad and I are going to watch the Bedlam game. 117 years of history, and I think Oregon and Oregon State have 125 years of history.
Mm-hmm.
So tomorrow will be the final time those two teams play. Is it bad for college football that we're losing some of that history that goes back over 100 years? Or with the changes that are going on, we're going to have conference realignment. We'll have better matchups and expanded playoff, and we'll find new rivalries to get behind. Is it bad that we're losing that? Is it bad for the game?
Well, it could be both in a way. I think it's bad for the game, but it's much worse for the team that's moving to a lower level league, lower conference level.
Like Oklahoma State and Oregon State.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Oregon, they're losing the Civil War matchup. It's not going to matter to them. They're replacing that with games against home games against Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, legendary brands in college football.
Yeah.
Okay. And they could still play Oregon State if they wanted to.
They get scheduled non-conference.
Exactly. Yeah. They don't need to go all the way to Hawaii to play a game. They can just go down the road to Corvallis and play. But that's not a smart thing for them to do.
No.
They could lose that game. And why should they take a non-conference game that they could lose? Nobody does that anymore, do they?
No, because you look at your conference slate and you're like, dang, we're not going to go through that unscathed. We can't take any chances in the non-conference anymore.
Yeah. Not going to do it.
Yeah, and I understand that. That's why when we first got word that Oregon was out and they were going to the Big Ten, I never bought into that nonsense like, oh, we'd still like to play the game.
No, you wouldn't.
Total lies.
Yeah. But for Oregon State, it's a tremendous loss. And I won't downplay that. It's a tremendous loss. And I think for the average college football fan in Oregon, that's a loss because they love that game. We've all grown up with that game. We love that game just like you love Bedlam. Bedlam is unbelievable in that state.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like Oregon. You have part of the state is Oklahoma State, part of the state's Oklahoma. Here in Oregon, it's I'm a beaver, you're a duck.
Right. It divides families.
Yeah.
So
my family's divided. I've got half Cowboy fans, half Sooner fans. It's cool.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be gone.
And it's a shame. That's what historically, it's a shame. But you can't turn around and blame the team that's going to get a better deal out of it.
Yeah.
That's just fact. They're not going to come back and play them.
No, Oregon's going to a
and
Oklahoma's
very good spot. They're not going to come back and play Okie State, are they?
No. Not when they got home games against Alabama, they're not.
Yeah. Wouldn't make a lot of sense.
Now, Oklahoma could say, well, we've won 81 of the 117 matchups. It could be just another little check mark on the schedule, but they stand to gain nothing.
Well, they're not conference games. They're going to find some stumble bums down there in the area to play, aren't they? I mean, come on.
That's where you call up Tulsa.
Exactly.
You can be our new rival.
Yep.
All right, when we come back, I'll give you the college football viewing guide. Let me put it to you this way, guys. You might want to get your honeydew list done right now. A lot of games to watch tomorrow, and we'll talk about Thursday Night Football. Titans, they may have found a quarterback godfather. Maybe.
He looks pretty good so far.
All right, you got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Tom Habas Show coming up at 4. Well, Godfather, it looks like I'm going to be watching college football all day tomorrow. And for you guys out there with a significant other, you might want to get all your honeydew list done now because tomorrow is going to be full. I love this because kicking off at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning on Fox, you've got Kansas State at Texas. And Texas, of course, trying to stay unscathed till they get to the Big 12 title game with the rematch against Oklahoma. Also at 9 o'clock on ABC, Notre Dame at Clemson. I'll watch that game just to pull for Notre Dame and watch Dabo lose another one. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
After that, at 11 o'clock on the Pac-12 Network, ASU at Utah. 2 games at 12:30 to pay attention to. On CBS, Missouri, who's number 12 right now, they're at Georgia. Also at ABC at 12:30, you've got Oklahoma State at Oklahoma. That is the final Bedlam matchup. So 117 years of history. My dad and I are going to watch that one together. After that, 2:30 on the Pac-12 Network, Cal is at Oregon. As we mentioned, the Ducks are a 24.5-point favorite. 4:30 on ABC, UW at USC, the battle of the two quarterbacks in Penix and Caleb. At 4:45 on CBS, LSU at Alabama. A big game for both teams. Jaden Daniels, by the way, is balling out of his mind right now for the Tigers. 7 o'clock on ESPN, Oregon State at Colorado. And then 7:30 on FS1, UCLA is at Arizona. Those are 2 very good football games to close out the night. So your entire college football Saturday right there is taken up starting at 9 all the way up until about midnight. So you're good there. And don't forget on Sunday morning, 6:30, NFL Network from Frankfurt, you've got Miami and Kansas City. Tua and Mahomes.
Arguably the best game of the weekend, really, including all those college games. That is a barn burner right there, those 2 teams.
2 great offensive minds, 2 sensational quarterbacks, and 2 teams, probably the 2 best offensive teams in football to watch right now.
Yeah.
You might want to tune in for that. Quarterback play, offensive play design, it's all there. And a big game for Miami to kind of showcase what they can do against one of the upper echelon teams after losses that we saw to Buffalo and also Philadelphia.
They need a win over a legit contender.
Yes, and I want to see how the Chiefs respond after getting hammered last week in Denver.
Yeah.
Putting up a measly 9 points, going scoreless in the second half. Last night, you and I were talking about this after what we saw last week. I thought Will Levis in Tennessee would go into Pittsburgh and get throttled. I thought Levis would throw like 3 or 4 picks. He would get harassed, and that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
They lost the game, but they outgained Pittsburgh. And Will Levis stood in. He was sacked 4 times. He was under pressure, but threw for 262 yards and showed poise against one of the best defenses in football, and that impressed the heck out of me. So I don't know if he's the guy or not. I like what I've seen through 2 games, but at least now they know one thing. Tannehill's not the answer.
Yeah.
So they can go out the rest of the way and just let Levis play so they can evaluate and see if he's going to be the guy or not.
Yeah, I think they just have to retool their offense a little bit. To give him a chance. They've been so run-oriented for so long. They're not very sophisticated in the passing game.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of their stuff is still play-action stuff. And they need to open up a little bit for him because he can sling it. He's a gunslinger of the highest order. Now, those kind of guys, I think over the long haul, they throw you out of some games too. Just like they throw you into games, they throw you out of some. So, but I guarantee you he'll be fun to watch. That's the thing with a guy like that. He's dangerous. He can beat you with that big arm of his, but he can beat his own team once in a while with it too. At least that's the way it looks to me. He's trying to force the ball a little bit. And granted, it's not even fair to him now. Geez, he played just 2 games, but he was kind of known for that in college. I was really surprised at how tough he was.
Yeah.
He took a pretty good licking in that game and kept right on ticking. He was not intimidated. You didn't see him bail. He didn't look like he was afraid. So I think it's real promising there for them to uncover this guy who they didn't have to spend a high pick on.
And Levis is one of those guys that you actually like coming out of college. Yeah.
Yeah. But see, I always like the big arm guys.
Yeah, me too.
The guys who can throw it through a brick wall. Give me that guy.
Well, think about those guys. Elway, Jeff George, Brett Favre, Josh Allen, just to name a few.
Yeah.
All of those guys would occasionally make a throw that was ill-advised, but you've got to understand from their standpoint, it's like, dude, I can make any throw that I need to make.
Exactly. Yeah. You have your hands up. I can throw it through your hands. That's kind of the way they're looking at it.
There were times where Elway would throw a ball. I'm like, what is he looking at there? And I'm like, oh, he just thinks he can gun it past anyone.
Look, he's throwing 98-mile-an-hour fastballs. Elway was throwing some heat. He was throwing heat. So, he tried to fit those throws in. I mean, Favre did the same thing. Favre was always trying to fit into such a small window that, every once in a while, it's like, what are you doing? What are you trying to do there? But you can't tell him that because he thought, no, I had a shot. There was something there.
Yeah, I can't relate because I don't have those type of physical tools. I see it with Josh Allen, too. I understand what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I'm a better athlete than you. My arm is a lot stronger than you can even imagine. I'm just going to gun it down there.
Mm-hmm.
So a little Will Levis we see in those guys as well. So, yeah, just let him rip, man. See what you got. The exciting part for Titan fans, you might have your quarterback. You get a chance to watch him grow. And if he's not, then you get the answer, and then you move out and find another quarterback.
That's right.
That's
really the way the league works. And I don't know. They're playing Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh got some kind of lucky charm going. I don't know what's going on. They're no good. They're lousy, and they're 5-3.
Yes,
and they're like they get outgained every game.
But this is the beauty of coaching and the beauty of football. Pittsburgh's offense is not good, but their special teams and their defense is superb. And there are 3 phases to football. You can win games in the NFL by playing legit defense and making no mistakes in special teams. And that's what they do. And their head coach is just simply one of the best. And he's tough, and he demands toughness from his players. So they need to work on the offense. And it's quite possible that Pickett's not the answer, but credit to them for being 5-3 when they've been outgained. It's remarkable.
For sure. Yeah, it's incredible.
Not sustainable, but remarkable.
I would say that too.
Yeah.
Go ahead and try that the rest of the season and see how it works out for you.
All right. When we come back, Tom Habistro of your Portland Trailblazers is going to join us. And, he's got the numbers, the analytics. We'll find out what he's seeing with their defense, which has been improved. The reason for their offensive struggles, is it because Ant's out? And what about some of the youngsters we're seeing in Sharp, Scoot, and also Tamani Kamara? Tom Habistro's up next.
Habistats.
All right, now 4 o'clock chat here. What's going on, my friends? The Trailblazers are home tonight for a plat out. Memphis is in town for the first of two. Tip-off is at 7. I'll have game day at 4:30. Tom Habistro going to join Dwight Knight coming up in just a couple of minutes. Scoot Henderson will not play tonight with a sprained right ankle. Oregon Ducks are home tomorrow. They host Cal at 2:30 on Pac-12 Network. Ducks favored by 24.5. They're number 6 in the initial playoff rankings released Tuesday. Number 5, Washington is at USC. 4:30 kick on ABC. The Huskies favored by 3. And Oregon State looking to bounce back, coming off the loss at Arizona. They're in Boulder to take on CU. 7 o'clock kick, ESPN. The Beavs favored by 13.5. The Buffs have elevated Pat Shermer. He'll take over the play calling duties from Sean Lewis. We got more of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming at you right now. Tom Habistro, Trailblazers, is going to join us. All right, you can jump on board, as always, 503-248-0620. Tom Habistro is scheduled to join us, so we're awaiting his phone call. And we got some tickets to give away. In fact, we got a pair of tickets. Let's do it right now. You cool with that, Shacker? Let's give away a pair of tickets for Chris Stapleton. If you'd like to see Chris Stapleton in concert up at the RV Inn Resort-Style Amphitheater, call now. We'll take caller 2, 503-248-0620. Caller 2 gets a pair of tickets for Chris Stapleton, 503-248-0620. Call now, 503-248-0620. And you can go see Chris Stapleton live in concert in Clark County up at the amphitheater, 503-248-0620. Which game are you looking forward to the most? Any of the college football games or the Kansas City Miami game on Sunday morning?
Yeah, that's a tough call because I'm obviously looking forward to Washington and USC because we have a difference of opinion on that. So I love to watch the games that we don't agree on.
Yeah.
That's just fun. It's like having a big bet on the game or something. I want to see that game. And of course, how can you go wrong with Kansas City, Miami? I'm just looking forward to the offensive side of that. Watch the two quarterbacks go at it. Should be fun. I think it's a shame to waste that game on Germany, but I wish it were here in a reasonable time of day for people to watch. I'll also watch the Ducks, and I'll watch the Beavers. I think I have time to fit those all in.
Yeah, the Ducks are fun to watch right now because of what's at stake. So even when they're playing a patsy or a team that you would define as a patsy, it's like, okay, you got to go out there and handle business. No screwing around.
But they're also fun to watch because they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
Because of all that speed, their threat downfield, and their running game. You don't see a good, high-quality running game in college football that often anymore. With the kind of speed they have, Bucky is terrific to watch.
Yeah.
James is fun to watch. Their team, they got good receivers. He's got a plethora of guys to throw to down the field who can all make big catches for him. And Bo Nix is, I love to watch him at the line of scrimmage. He's checking down all the time, making smart calls. They're just fun to watch. I know my Beaver friends are going to get upset with me for saying that, but hey, face facts. They're fun to watch.
I'm a big fan of experienced quarterback play. I love watching Bo Nix. Yeah. So efficient. 1 interception on the year. 21 touchdowns and 1 pick. So efficient. He makes good decisions all over the place. And I realize that offense is designed to get the football out of his hands, but he just doesn't make too many big mistakes. And when your quarterback, Bo Nix, is not putting you at a position of disadvantage, you can operate in a great spot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know who exactly was responsible last year for bringing him to Eugene. That guy needs a raise. That man, whoever recruited him, whoever signed that deal, maybe it's Lanning, I don't know. That guy should make more money because that was a great get. I'm sorry, they're not where they are now without him.
Well, clearly Dillingham and Lanning were the two key guys to be able to make that happen, and Dillingham had good knowledge of him based on his work in the SEC. Dillingham is a great offensive mind. But to see, this is what makes coaching so tough and the reason why I respect it. To see the potential in a player when all of your tape is uneven because of the struggles he had at Auburn.
Yeah.
But to look at a guy and say, wait a second, we can make it work with him. And you've told me before that coaches always have a way of looking at a player and saying, just get him in my system, right?
Right.
But they saw something in Bo Nix that a lot of people didn't.
Yeah.
To the point where when we talk to people on that side of the country, they're like, yeah, I really don't understand what they're trying to do there.
I was going to mention that, Chad. How many people, every person we talked to who covered the SEC, who watched the SEC, any connection to the SEC, nah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Not going to work for you.
So here's what that does to me now. Now I got to wonder when I see a guy struggling that's got the tools, I'm like, okay, what's wrong here?
Right.
Is it him or is it the coaching staff?
Not always him, is it?
No.
It's not.
That's why, and again, this is part of the reason, this is the good side of the portal. If you're a player and you're in a situation that you thought was going to be one way, but it turned out not to be the case, and it's not a good scenario for you, if Bo Nix was unable to transfer and play elsewhere, he would have never been able to redeem himself and now put himself in a position where he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks taken.
Yeah.
But he comes to Oregon, and it's like he's like a brand new guy.
Yeah. Also, very smart to stay that extra season.
Yes, because the NIL allows him to do that. But you get more tape, more experience, and now you're going to see some of those NFL teams say, we can work with a guy like that. Or maybe there's someone out there that sees Nix the way that Andy Reid saw Patrick Mahomes, where they're going to go out of their way to make sure they draft him. Someone's going to see him and say, we can make it work with that guy.
Yeah.
The same can be said about Michael Penix. He was at Indiana. It was a career with the Hoosiers that was marred by injury.
Absolutely.
He's able to transfer. He gets paired up with a coach where the two of them are on the same page. And in a matter of 2 years, you now look at Michael Penix Jr. completely different than what you thought about him at Indiana.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I saw him at Indiana and really liked him. Never saw him as a first-round pick.
Yeah, and now look at him.
Yeah, he's going to be a first-round pick.
He will probably be a first-round pick.
I think so. I do. I think so.
I think Nix has the tools to maybe be a more successful NFL quarterback than Penix.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah. For some reason, I don't know if he's going to get drafted as high. There's something about him that it doesn't seem they like, because you look at all the rankings now, and it's still early, but you look at the mock drafts and all that. He's not as high as Penix in most of them.
Yeah. My only concern about Penix would be arm strength. Does he have a strong enough arm to make all throws? But again, I have a tendency to lean towards guys who are a little more mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And Penix is more of a pure pocket passing type of a guy.
He is.
We
saw that
and deliver.
When he was pressured, he had a little trouble getting out of trouble.
Yeah, now I give him credit because against Oregon, he had to stand in a couple of times and deliver the football under duress, knowing he was going to take a shot.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about that I respect in a quarterback.
Yeah.
To stand in or step up in the pocket when you know that you're putting yourself in harm's way, but it needs to be done to finish the playoff the way it was created. That's a beautiful thing when you see a quarterback that has that type of confidence and poise in the pocket. Because a lot of guys, their first hint of pressure, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. But Penix, like a lot of those pocket guys, he'll climb the pocket, stand in, and wait till the last minute for the play to develop and put the ball in the money. And sometimes he'll make a throw where his guy's not open, but he throws him open.
Mm-hmm.
The elite level of quarterback play in college football right now is off the charts.
Yeah, just in this conference. Really?
Yeah. Even Shadur Sanders. I know a lot of people don't like Coach Prime or the whole mess with Colorado. But, man, when you watch Shadur, mobility, arm strength, accuracy.
He'll be back and be a big-time Heisman candidate.
100%.
Yeah.
And he's not the only one. There are other guys across the conference who are like, man, that guy's good too.
Mm-hmm.
Even this Fafita, who I don't know if he's going to be an NFL guy, but what he's doing at Arizona to step in after an injury to Delora and lead them the way he has with a difficult schedule. I mean, he was terrific against Oregon State.
Yeah.
He made plays when he had to. I like seeing that. And a lot of times it's from guys you're like, who's Fafita? Oh, he's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would tell me that there's probably good coaching going on down at Arizona when you see that kind of development, right?
That's right. Yep.
But a lot of these college offenses now, they don't mess around. The ball gets out of the quarterback's hand fast. It's got to be a pain to try and defend some of these offenses. You can't get to the quarterback. It's boom, in their hands and out quick.
Mm-hmm.
fun to watch, Godfather.
Yeah, I think offense has developed much quicker in the college game than the defense has.
It has. Let's go out to the phones. Mitch in New Jersey, big USC fan out in New Jersey. Hey, Mitch, I like USC to upset Washington. What do you think about that game tomorrow?
It's going to be a great game. Probably the best game of the weekend. Well, I'll give credit to Kansas City, Miami, on the other side of the world. I mean, when we have a game in China and Russia, South America, come on.
Never, I hope.
North Pole, South Pole. Hey, by the way, well, anyway, thanks for taking my call, guys. Hope everything's well. I called you the other day, Chad, but you didn't pick up. Your secretary says you were busy. So,
no, I wanted to pick up. You just called me at an inconvenient time. I'm sorry about that, Mitch.
All right. Well, yeah, I think I was a good message. I didn't get the gist of it. You know why I can't say it over the air? It's a sad world we live in.
I understand.
It's been a great weekend. Out of all the years for the Pac-12 to be so good, or the Pac-2, all these quarterbacks, it has to be the final year. But I know USC has no shot. Maybe you win the Heisman. But I want to see Washington get in because you talk about Florida State. Well, how about Michigan? Isn't that enough trouble? Michigan's in there. They should take them out of the rankings, suspend the team for the rest of the year. I know it's not the players' fault. But if they remove Michigan, they can get put in Washington and Florida State. Wouldn't that be fair? Good idea?
Well, I'll tell you what, you need to hit up Lincoln Riley and ask him if he can use you to fly around to different stadiums and use electronic equipment to help out with the calls so you can improve that defense.
And somebody, please, sneak in a talk, man. Maybe we can just blend right in. But, he better not leave. I'm hearing, and I read one thing that the Mannings, he's a freshman out of Texas. If they can pull him over to USC, that'd be awesome. But I'm also waiting to see Nelson and Miller Moss. Caleb's winning the Heisman. He's going to be the top pick. And it's probably going to be my Raiders.
Hey, Mitch.
Enjoy the games. Have a good weekend.
Hey, Mitch, out of curiosity, where are you calling us from right now?
What's that?
Where are you calling us from right now?
Well, I got on at first. I was still at work. Then I was arguing with my boss. He goes, Mitch, you worry about minutia. You worry about nothing. Nothing important. Stop worrying about your truck will be parked in the right spot. And then maybe I have to pretend. I know, it's funny. Now I drove here. I'm having a little dinner. I'm having a slice of pizza, the best pizza in the country, right here, Capiano's. That's where I'm at.
Did you say Capianos or Tapianos?
Capiano's.
All right. Best slice in the country, huh?
He's a Mexican guy. Yeah. He's over in East Windsor.
You said he's a Mexican guy?
What's that?
Did you say he's a Mexican guy?
He's from Central America. He owns 2 places.
Oh,
it's a restaurant. You know, a lot of sandwiches. The food is great.
All right. You got me sold on it, Mitch. Have fun watching the games, buddy.
I will. Thanks. Have a nice weekend.
There you go. There's Mitch. I think his boss knows him pretty well. He's like, Mitch, you're always worried about the minutia.
Yeah.
That sounds like the Mitch that calls into our show, minutia.
Mm-hmm.
He called us straight from Capiano's.
Yeah. Well, I could tell. I figured it was just the neighborhood bar, the neighborhood tavern. But it's a pizza joint.
What is your preference on pie, Godfather? Do you want deep dish Chicago? Do you want the crusty bottom like Detroit with the square pizza? Or would you like a thin slice of New York style?
I like all of those, Chad. And I generally rotate. I've always liked the Detroit style, the square pizza, but it's hard to find around here. You don't see it around here much. You usually have to go somewhere else. I like that a lot, and I think I like the thin crust better than the thick crust. The thick crust is, I always feel like it's kind of more unhealthy,
Well,
little too much dough there for you.
Well, it's definitely more dense. You're going to walk on with a few more calories in your system if you go that direction.
Yeah.
I still don't understand how a guy can live out on that end of the country and have such a weird affinity for West Coast teams. USC, the LA Dodgers.
Yeah. They don't have a lot of good college football around where he is. That's one thing.
That's true. Yeah, Rutgers.
Yeah, right.
I don't need that.
No.
But
not
you got
at all.
everything else. NFL.
Yeah.
Baseball, hockey, basketball, the whole shebang.
What city is he in New Jersey? I've never heard that.
I don't know what city it is.
We'll have to go down that rabbit hole one of these days.
Yeah, ask him that.
It might be hard to get an answer.
If you
on
want
that.
minutia, you'll get a lot more in that direction there too.
That'll be a long answer.
All right, we'll come back and we're about to end the Rip City Drive. I've got Blazers Game Day coming up at 4:30. I guess we get no Tom Havastro today. Habastats. No Habastats.
Yeah, well.
You can have Tom Habastro or you can have Mitch from Capriano's on the East Coast. I guess we'll take Mitch.
Yep.
All right, tip-off's coming up at 7. When we come back, we'll give away a pair of tickets for AEW Wrestling. All right, we have wrestling tickets to give away. All Elite Wrestling, November 8th at Moda Center.
Come by and see me. I'll be there.
You're going to be there for the All Elite Wrestling, Godfather?
Absolutely.
You got a lot of stuff going on over there. I have decided that you're no longer allowed to have the tape dispenser in front of you during the show.
I don't need it.
Yeah, that's good.
I just play with it.
Yeah, I know. I could hear it all throughout the show. It's driving me crazy.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I'm
so
glad to
no
hear
more
it was
tape
driving-
dispensers for the
I was
Godfather.
glad to hear that it was driving you crazy.
All right,
Perfect.
AEW Wrestling, November 8th at Moda Center. We'll take caller 5 right now. If you'd like to go see AEW Wrestling, call now. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620. Is Burkhart going to roll with you?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, that was kind of the plan.
What
We'll
about
see.
the godbrother and the rest of the family?
God, David might be along for that one. We'll see.
Oh, how's the godbrother coming along with the assorted ailments?
He's doing okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
he got some surgery coming up, I think,
Uh-huh.
and we'll see how that works out.
Okay.
But nothing stops him. I mean,
He's always on the go.
oh my God, 100 miles an hour every which way, but nothing stops that.
And how's your nephew David coming along?
David's doing well. He's on strike right now, as is the whole family. Portland teachers are out, getting bad publicity because the district can afford to hire all these PR guys to make the teachers look like they're, being terrible to their pupils. But the other side of the story is much different, of course.
Yeah. Interesting. So you get all the insight from the inside.
Yeah, I do. I've heard too many stories to blame teachers for all the problems in the Portland Public Schools.
Is the godbrother still substitute teaching?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Why wouldn't you want to dip into that gold mine?
Oh, man. Yeah, he's got the double dip going. Yeah, he runs his little business on the side. And he's got it going, I'm telling you. My brother's a millionaire. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
He is, and he's worked for it.
Yeah.
He earns it.
He grinds.
Yeah, he deserves every dime he makes.
Good for him. Good for him.
And he makes it like one dime at a time, too.
Literally.
Yeah.
Well, with some of those machines now, some of the vending machines they got out now, a little more high tech.
Oh, yeah.
A little more spendy.
Yeah. They got those claw machines,
Yep.
Oh, they got a lot of those.
Yeah, David was telling me which claw machines to use and which ones not to use based on the likelihood that you'll get the prize. So I keep that in mind when my daughter gets excited.
Yeah, it's top secret information, though. I think you've gone about as far with that as you should.
So who's going to be the star at the AEW Wrestling?
Well, there's guys hurt right now, and so I don't know. Their big star is Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. He's their champion. He's the best heel to come along in years. And he's so good at being a heel. He's done the Ric Flair thing where you're so good at that, you become popular, and the fans turn you from heel to babyface. I mean, he's that good. He's really good. He's a great wrestler, and he's great behind the mic.
All right. And we got the Grappler coming up. He's coming out for a little comedy tour, so I
Yeah.
think we're going to have a chance to talk to the Grappler.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the former catcher on my adult baseball team. Len Denton, know him well. Good guy. Real good guy.
That's awesome, man.
Had trouble with pop flies.
And that wasn't his strength?
No,
Pop
I
flies?
said, what's the deal, Lynn? That's 3 pop flies that you haven't even touched. He said, well, I guess I should have told you about that neck fusion I have. I can't look up to see him. Yeah, maybe you should have told me. We could have had the third baseman or the first baseman run in and take those for you.
I've never had neck fusion, but I think that would be an issue when it comes to the pop flies.
Yeah,
maybe.
looking up in the air is kind of a problem for Lenny. Yeah.
All right, so you're going down to the game tonight?
Yes, I am.
What are you going to be watching?
Well, yeah, I want to see Shaden Sharp up close and personal, and then just the way they're defending. I'm very excited to watch them defend in person. You know, you see it much better when you can see the whole court at once.
You got to pay attention to Kamara and see what you think about
for
Tamani.
sure. I'll give you a full report. Yeah. The main thing is I get to see the new court, Chad, because this is a tournament game. This is game 1 of the tournament, you know.
Or you may not see the new court, potentially based on information we were provided with.
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention that. But
I'm just saying, we
yeah.
may not see the new court tonight. A little birdie told me that.
There's a problem?
Yeah.
They'll have it out there
with the lines. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh, you got to have the court. Heck, it shouldn't count as a tournament game if you're not playing on the right court.
Yeah.
Come on.
You need your city court and your city jersey, or it doesn't count as a tournament game.
Right. I'm excited about both of them for sure.
All right. Have a good night, Godfather. Keep it right here. When we come back, we'll kick off Blazers game day. Tip off with the Grizzlies and Blazers coming up at 7. I'll be with you for the next 90 minutes setting the table.
Have a good show.
From Travis Demers today, just kind of go over the tournament, in-season tournament with the NBA, just to make sure I'm up to date on all the details. So I'll give that a little bit later in the show, just so you have a basic premise for what's going on and how this is all going to play out. And the Blazers will play their first of their tournament games tonight. The Memphis Grizzlies are in town. This is the first of 2 against the Grizzlies. They'll play tonight, tip off at 7, and they're back at it at Moda Center on Sunday. That game on Sunday will tip off at 6 o'clock. So the Blazers, after that 3-game mini road trip on the East Coast, are back home. And really, I think it was a productive road trip for the Blazers, who surprisingly took 2 of the 3 games, back-to-back wins at Toronto and Detroit, and they come back home with some renewed focus and some excitement based on how the first 3 games went. And keep in mind, before the back-to-back wins against Toronto and Detroit, they were blown out in Philadelphia by 28 points. It was hideous. And so when they went into Toronto, I was like, eh. But we saw some good things that we'll get into in the second half of both those games, which is nice. And we're still getting a feel for this team and some of the new faces and the guys that are on the squad. One little note, just so you're aware if you're going to the game tonight, Scoot Henderson will not play. He suffered a sprained right ankle in that game against Detroit. He only played 20 minutes. He is not going to play tonight. I do not know what his status is for Sunday, but I do know from multiple people I have spoken with who are close to the team, the injury is not serious. He was moving around without crutches or any type of support. He was just sore. So I think it's just a precautionary deal where they keep him out of the game tonight. My guess would be, as of right now, is that we'll see Scoot Henderson in the game on Sunday. That would be my guess. As for the Blazers right now, I think the most exciting part in what we've seen over the last couple of games, which were both wins against Toronto and Detroit, was, I think, for me, in my mind, number one, it wasn't just 1 or 2 players who were getting the job done. It was multiple guys who made game-winning plays, which helped push them over the top. And that's the type of basketball I like to watch. And I think for this team right now, that's the type of basketball they'll need to play if they hope to be competitive and have a chance to win some of these basketball games right now. I'll be the first to tell you that I'm not concerned about wins and losses this season. I really don't think that's the main objective for this group. Obviously, if they win games, it's nice. But most importantly, whether it's a win or a loss, how did they play? Did they play the game the right way? Are they doing the things that the coaching staff wants them to do on offense and on defense? And for the young players, are we seeing them make a move in the right direction? Now, the last 2 games, I think what's most impressive is that their defense, and we haven't been able to say this too often over the last, 3, 4, 5 years, it was the defense that carried them down the stretch. And that's very important on the road. This team is not going to be a great offensive team this year. They're not going to shoot the ball particularly well, especially from 3. I think they're second to last in the NBA in three-point shooting right now. So they have to find other ways to win. The easiest way to do that is through doing a good job in rebounding so you can control the glass and the tempo. Also, with your defense, creating opportunities, whether it's contesting shots and forcing misses where you can get the rebound and have a chance to get out and maybe create something in transition, or it's the defense forcing turnovers that leads to easy buckets on the other end. They got to find a way to manufacture points. That's going to be critical for this team because the offense at times will probably be hard to come by. And their defense down the stretch in both games was really good. And what we saw in the game against Detroit, they got off to a hot start and they built the lead. They were up by as much as 18. And then we saw the Blazers start to lock up and play much better defense. And in that second half, they held Detroit to just 42 points on 37.8% shooting. So defensively, they were getting home, they were contesting, and they did a pretty good job of communication. And you had multiple guys who were making an impact. Toumani Camara has been a bright spot early in the year. So when we talk about the incremental growth that we're looking for with this coaching staff, number one, look at the young guys and see the progress. Well, Toumani Camara is making an impact on this team right now. He's a youngster, but he's come in, he's practicing really hard. He's doing the things that the coaches want him to do, and as a result, they're finding ways to get him involved in the games. And you see him fighting over screens, using his length and his wingspan to disrupt passing lanes. He's being very hard-nosed and playing with a lot of energy and effort, which is terrific. Coaches love those type of players. And I think that type of play, when seen by some of his teammates, can inspire other guys to also put in some energy and effort defensively, which is nice. I wouldn't be surprised if Toumani Camara at times may work himself into the starting lineup, potentially, but he's going to continue to get minutes because of the effort and the smarts and the way he's played, especially defensively, which is terrific. So big props to Tamani Kamara. But the other bright spot, and I think everyone's excited about this, but what about Shaden Sharp? There was a time where I said in the preseason, this guy's not ready to start. You can't start him. He's not ready. But he clearly has put in some time on his game and worked hard. And when Anthony Simons went down with the injury, they made the decision to put Shaden Sharp in the starting lineup. That was the right call. And then after that first game, it was Coach Billups who came out and said, we're going to continue to roll forward with our young guys, Scoot Henderson, Shaden Sharp. And so those two have been starting. And what we're seeing from Shaden Sharp is just the development in his game. Obviously, he's put in time and worked hard during the offseason, but better ball handling. He's been a playmaker at times. And down the stretch of the game against Detroit, he was the go-to guy. He had the ball in his hands. They were looking to him to create offense for the team, and he accepted the challenge. Finished with a team-high 29 points. He pulled down 7 rebounds, also had 5 assists, so he was creating for his teammates as well. But what I liked the most, that was a weird game because the Blazers are a young team, and usually young teams don't get the respect that maybe they deserve at times from the officials. But they got 33 free throws up in that game, and they ended up being plus 17 at the foul line. They won the game by getting to the foul line, but down the stretch, whether it was Brogdon or it was Kamara or it was Shaden Sharp on multiple possessions, he attacked. He put the ball on the floor and used his strength to attack the rim. He did not settle. And as a result, they got to the foul line. They made the shots. They won the game. And I thought that was very heady for a young player. What Shaden Sharp is now showing is that he should be starting. He needs to start. And now they're going to have an issue when Anthony Simons returns because there's no way on God's green earth you're going to put him back on the bench. So I don't care if you've got to keep Ant on the bench, which is not going to happen because Ant makes $25 million. You're going to have to start Shaden. So just go with the 3-guard lineup and start Shaden at the 3. Matisse Thybulle is a good dude, good locker room guy, and a good defender. He does not fit into the long-term plans of the Portland Trailblazers. So playing him and giving him minutes ahead of a guy like Shaden Sharp makes no sense. So if you got to go with Scoot, Ant, and Sharp, you do that. If you want to go Ant and Sharp and bring Scoot off the bench, do that. But you've got to find a way to play the guys, and I would just play all 3 and start them. The problem is Sharp is a 2. The team views him as a 2. So it's unfortunate he would be playing out of position a bit at the 3, but he's earned the minutes, and he's playing well. He's one of the best players on the team right now. And this is really heaven sent. They needed this. And as Scoot is learning the NBA game and adjusting to the NBA game and learning how to play and going through some of the early season struggles, Sharp has played so well that he's taken some of the pressure off because now the attention is on Sharp and the good things that he's doing, and I think that makes life a little bit easier for Scoot. Now, with Scoot and his struggles, I will say this before the ankle injury, the 2 games against Toronto and Detroit were definitely improved over what we saw in the first 3 games. So it's going to be a bit of a process for Scoot. But what I love is through the struggles, the guy's countenance, his focus, his confidence, it's not waning at all. And this guy's very sure in terms of his abilities. I like his attitude. I like his approach. He's going to be fine. People were freaking out maybe because they were expecting something a little bit different out of the first 3 games. But I'm not worried about Scoot at all. He's going to be fine. You just got to continue to give him time, and he'll probably be back on Sunday, and he'll just continue to play. And you live with the bumps and the bruises, understanding that long-term, the experience he's getting now is going to pay off as we move into the future. And that's really what matters more than anything else. Getting time, showing confidence, and continuing to work. And the game's going to slow down for him. The Blazers, it's pretty remarkable they got those 2 wins on the road. This team is not only the youngest team in the league, but they have no continuity. These guys don't know each other. And you know how hard that is when you walk out on the floor and you're like, who's that guy? They don't know each other. They need time to play together. Now, look at teams that have been together and have the continuity and how well they're playing right now, whether it's, the Warriors or the Denver Nuggets, the teams that have been together, have played together, understand each other, their roles, where their teammates are going to be. The game's so much easier. All of these Blazers are still learning on the fly. The other thing that's been nice, too, when we talk about multiple guys making game-winning plays, we've seen Grant crank up the offense a bit in the last 2 games. DeAndre Ayton, now that he's getting 30-plus minutes per game over the last two, he's coming off the game where he had the career-high 23 rebounds against Toronto. And then he comes out and has a double-double with 5 steals against the Pistons. And they put him in a position to where he can be kind of a freelancer and make some decisions out there. And with his length and athleticism, he's been great. So you love to see it. Multiple guys making game-winning plays. And, as this continues to move forward and guys have a better understanding of their role and what the coaches are looking for them to do, I think you're going to see, this incremental change with all the guys. And even for Scoot Henderson, like you can see the game. It takes time for it to slow down. He's seeing things. These guys that he's on the floor with in the NBA just move differently, even at the 4 and the 5 spot, than what he's accustomed to in the G League. So it'll get there. But, encouraging signs with the 2 games against Toronto and Detroit. But again, you cannot judge this team based off of wins and losses right now. You've got to watch for the growth of individuals and also the growth of the team in terms of how they respond to the way that both Coach Billups and the staff want them to play when they hit the floor on both ends. And that's what I'm looking for. So, pretty exciting. We'll see how things shake out. The Grizzlies are not playing good basketball right now. This could be an opportunity at home for the Blazers to be able to win some games. So we'll come back, and when we do, I'll give you a quick breakdown on the in-season tournament and how things are going to shake out. So that way you have a better understanding of what we're looking at. Blazers and Grizzlies are coming up at 7. I'm going to be joined by John Phillips. He's going to come on and talk some ball with us at 5 o'clock. He is one of the godfathers of sports talk radio in Portland, a good friend, and also the reason that I'm on radio today. I also want to get his take on the WNBA and some of the challenges that we're seeing with Portland trying to land a franchise. So we'll get to that coming up here on Game Day. I appreciate your time on 620 Rip City Radio and live on YouTube. Be sure to go to our YouTube page. Starting next Tuesday, all of our local shows will be streamed live on YouTube. So go to youtube.com, pull up our homepage, Rip City Radio 620, subscribe, and you can find the live link to join me in studio. All right, Blazers game day. Chad doing with you as we get ready for the Blazers and Grizzlies here on 620 Rip City Radio. In regards to what we're going to see with the tournament action, so basically what you have right now with this NBA in-season tournament, you have 6 groups of 5 teams, 3 that are from each conference. And the Blazers are part of Group A, which includes Portland, Memphis, the LA Lakers, Utah, and Phoenix. So 4 group play games, and you get 2 at home and 2 on the road. And these games are going to be played on Tuesdays and Fridays in the month of November. Now, the top 8 that come out of these tournament games will play quarterfinal games, which will be on the home team site. The semis and the finals will be in Las Vegas. And the grand prize for the winning team, each player gets $500,000 in prize money. So there you go. They're playing for money. The winning team, each player will get $500,000. The runner-up team, I think each player gets $200,000. And we'll see how things play out. Those games will be played on December 6th and December 8th. Because if you look at the schedule right now, there's no games listed between the 2nd and the 9th. And I think right now there's only 80 games on the schedule. So they're going to use some of these tournament games to be included into games that will count as regular season games. And for these home teams, they'll have their home city courts, which are these new courts. You've probably seen them floating around on social media, which is kind of cool. And the home teams will also wear their city jerseys. The road team will also wear their city jerseys unless there's a matching color issue, and then they'll go with a different jersey. But that's basically it. You've got 6 groups of 5 teams, 3 that are in each conference. Portland's a part of Group A with Memphis, the Lakers, Utah, and Phoenix. They'll play 2 games at home, 2 games on the road, Tuesdays and Fridays in November. And then based on how those games play out, we'll get the top 8, which will move on to the quarterfinals, and the semifinals and the finals are in Las Vegas. And the players are playing for money. $500,000 goes to each player from the winning team, $200,000 to each player on the runner-up. So that kind of gives you a little basic rundown of what to expect as we enter into these tournament games, which kick off tonight at Moda Center. And the Blazers, not just tonight, but they'll also play Memphis coming up on Sunday with the 6 o'clock tip at Moda Center. I'll have game day starting at 3:30 on Sunday. I do want to stop and just say real quick, in case you missed it last night, you might want to go pull the highlights and just take a look at Victor Wembanyama. 38 points, double-double last night. He was 15 of 26 from the floor, but really showcased what we had seen in some of the highlights long before he was drafted in the NBA. And then I saw him do some of his work during the preseason. He's a freak. He's an absolute freak to see a guy at that size, 7'4", the way he plays defense, the way he can contest shots. He's going to be a serious problem, a great shot blocker. He'll change a ton of shots that people won't even be able to see. And I think what's impressive with his skill level, the way he can handle the rock, set up his teammates, he's got the ability to step back and knock down the three. Look, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but we haven't seen someone like him before in my lifetime. No one like him. He is he's a unicorn. And that's why people were so geeked and excited about the possibility of landing him in the draft. And that's why Portland made the decision they made to simply enter into an opportunity to have a chance to grab the top pick and land Victor Wembanyama. And it's really unfortunate when you look at Wemby and the way he played last night, the way he is playing, that Portland was one ping pong ball away from landing him. Because now San Antonio, as much as I despise the Spurs, that one stroke of luck or fortune or whatever you want to call it, it's going to transform their franchise now for the next 15 to 20 years. One player is going to change everything for him. And the grumpy old head coach, Greg Popovich, is going to be happy once again. You know, why leave the game? There's no need to retire now. You got Wemby. You can just sit back on the bench, roll the ball out, and say, go get him, Wemby. Gosh, he looks good. He looks really good. And by the way, I'm not buying into the Suns as a legitimate Western Conference contender either. I don't like the roster. I don't like the way it's composed. I don't think they're going to be good enough defensively. And as much as Kevin Durant I love, his game is amazing. I just can't rely on him to be healthy. I hate to admit it, but the Denver Nuggets right now look like the team to beat in the West. In fact, until further notice, they are the team to beat. They're better than every other team. They've got the continuity, they've got the best player, and they're coming off a championship run. So now they know what it takes to win the title, and they've got the confidence. So I don't want to hear about this team or that team. If you put them up against any other team in the Western Conference, whether it's the Lakers, the Suns, the Warriors, whoever, they're better. So barring injury, the Nuggets are primed to make another deep run. And we'll see how it all shakes out. And we'll see what some of these other, middling teams in the West, what they're able to do. Can the Clippers be more than their usual selves, which is a disaster? What about the Warriors with Chris Paul? Can they win it going small ball? I don't know. I just know the Nuggets look great. And in the Eastern Conference, I think it's a two-team race. Again, barring injury, but Milwaukee and Boston. And Milwaukee's still working through some issues right now, trying to figure out their defense and, trying to get Dame acclimated to his new squad. That'll take a little bit of time, but the Bucks are going to be fine. And the Celtics, we talk about teams with continuity. They came out of the gate playing good basketball, the way you would expect them to. So there you go. Nuggets right now, best team in the West. Not a surprise. And not a surprise, Milwaukee and Boston, the two best teams in the Eastern Conference. I want to see which teams are going to emerge to challenge Denver in the Western Conference. I don't think the Bucks or the Celtics have legit competition in the Eastern Conference. I just think they're better than the rest of those teams. And I just want to see whether it's the Warriors or the Lakers. I doubt the Suns, who's going to provide the resistance to Denver in the Western Conference. Now, for your Trailblazers tonight, I think going to these games right now, so much fun because you get a chance to just sit back and relax and watch the young guys play. What Shaedon Sharpe is doing right now is so key for this franchise. The confidence and the poise. And we noticed this last year early on when he would get on the floor. It's almost like, do you have a pulse, bro? Are you okay? What are you doing? Can you feel that you're in the middle of an NBA game? The way he carries himself is very calm and poised, and I like that from Shaedon Sharpe. So what I'm seeing right now, improvement with the ball handling, and this could go back to last year when he got a chance to play a ton heading down the final stretch. He was the key point in terms of facilitator, so he was facing, more pressure defense. He was getting a chance to see how teams would focus in on him, and I think dealing with that pressure has helped him now because I like what I see with the ball handling. He's been in a position as facilitator. He's been able to set up his teammates, which is nice. And not being afraid to get to his spots and put up the shots. So he's playing with more confidence. And we see this now when he's not on the floor with Anthony Simons. He knows where to go, where to get to, and he does not hesitate. He's attacking. And that's exactly what they need him to do. So that's what I'm going to watch for tonight with Shaedon Sharpe. I want to see him get the ball, get to his spots when he's in the role of facilitator, setting up his teammates, but also being aggressive and looking to score when the opportunities are there. And I like that. And he's so athletic and strong. He's going to have a great opportunity to develop into one of those guys who's going to be able to, finish around the rim with contact. And he's a good free throw shooter, too. So there are going to be opportunities there for him. So very impressed with what I see from Shaedon Sharpe. The other guys that we're seeing right now, Malcolm Brogdon, I mentioned this before. I don't know how long he's going to be here in Portland. It could be for the year. He might be dealt before the deadline. I have no idea. But I'll say this about Malcolm. I give him a lot of credit because he's playing with confidence and a certain poise that I think the younger guys can learn from. But when you get dealt from a true contender in Boston and you show up in Portland, the fact that he's willing to come in and ball and also be a leader and work with the young guys and not pout based on the current situation, I respect it a great deal. All right, Blazers and Grizzlies. We're going to kick things off coming up at 7 o'clock, tip-off from Moda. Mike Lynch will have the Blazers pregame show coming up at 6. When we come back on game day, John Phillips is going to join me and talk some ball. All right, this is a thrill for me. I haven't had him on the show in a long time, but he's one of the godfathers of sports talk in Portland. He's also a very good friend, and he's the reason that I'm behind the microphone right now because he gave me my first opportunity, and you know him from a long time in the Portland area. It's John Phillips who's back. John, it's so great to have you on the show, man. Thank you for your time.
Well, I tell you what, it's such a pleasure, and I'm so proud of you that you have come as far as you have. And I remember that first show you did over at K-Van Radio, and I tell you what, I sat there. You don't know this. You're on the air, and I guess you thought I was gone. I must have stayed back there for about 15, 20 minutes listening to you. And I'm like, oh, he's going to be fine. He's going to be just fine. And you were and you are.
Yeah,
so
that's
proud
great.
of you.
No, I appreciate it. It's so great to have you on, and I'm so glad that you're well, and I love your family so much. And, it's so great because I'll never forget, like, you always told me, you said, hey, all I ask is that when you run into another youngster that has an interest in the business, make sure you help them out. So I have stayed true to that and have continued to do that throughout time.
Oh, yeah. That's so important because, people don't understand. You fall into some of these things in such strange ways sometimes. And I know people that have gone to college and did everything to try to get into business and don't get in it. And here you have a guy that you may hear talking about sports in the playground. And say, hey, man, you need to be on the radio. And you know what? It's strange how it happens, but it does happen that way. It really does.
Well, so many things I want to talk with you about, John, but let's start with this. I was just talking about Victor Wembanyama. He had the 38 points, the double-double last night, and looked terrific against the Phoenix Suns. What's your takeaway when you see Victor and the enormous skill set he's bringing to the NBA?
Well, he is probably the most skilled man of that size. I mean, there's not too many to his size, but I mean, any time over a 7-footer. But he plays like a guard at 7'4". And imagine when he grows into his manhood and he gets his body, he's going to have to pick up some pounds. And the key thing about that is you want to pick it up gradually, and you want to pick it up more in strength and muscle than you do. And, you don't want heavy weight on you. But he's such a tremendous athlete. But what I love about him the most, and I've been watching him for about a year because they started showing him, in his home country. But he is such a student of the game. I mean, he knows the game of basketball. He makes the right plays. He just does the right things. And I tell you what, if he stays healthy, I mean, I don't think there's anything like him. I'm being honest with you. I've seen all the greats. I mean, I'm old enough to have seen, going back to Earl to Pearl Monroe. I mean, we can go down the list, but I'm just saying this kid is a freak of nature with his size, but his ability to do things and dribble and rebound and block shot. I mean, there's nothing he can't do.
You know what's amazing, too? Like, what's going to be the response from teams around the league trying to defend him? Because in the old days, you would have gotten physical with him, but now you can't do that the way that guys used to do that in the old days. So what will be the response to try and slow him down?
Well, you know what's going to happen? They're going, and this is where he's going to be so dangerous because they're going to figure they'll either double team him, which they'll have to do in a lot of cases, but he sees the floor so well. Well, he's bigger than anybody else. I mean, it's like looking over little kids. But my point is he's going to see shots that other players wouldn't see because he's so tall. But he's a gifted passer, and that's what makes him so spectacular because I don't see any flaws yet. Now, he has to pick up some weight, and he'll do that. He's a young kid, but he's going to pick up weight, and I hope he picks up, muscle weight, not, and I think he will because he's so lean. But I'm telling you, I don't see a weakness. And I've watched him play several times, and I don't see a weakness.
We're talking with John Phillips here on Game Day. The Blazers are going to be taking on the Grizzlies tonight, 7 o'clock at Moda Center. I want to talk to you a little bit about the WNBA, which you're very familiar with. We just got this letter from the WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, who sent a letter to Senator Ron Wyden saying that in light of the potential renovation of the Moda Center that's currently anticipated to take place during consecutive summers, consideration of a WNBA franchise for Portland will be deferred for now until the timing and scope of the arena improvements are settled. And so we have to wait for a WNBA team. Many are surprised by this news because they thought Portland was a shoo-in to get a team, and I think the community would support it for sure. So I'm wondering here, do you think that in a situation like this, John, that it might be better for, Jody Allen to own the team so that, because if you're a prospective owner and you come in, you've got to rent space at the Moda Center, and you wouldn't get the ancillary income from concessions and from parking. What's your view on this? Because you've been around the game.
Well, it's really a catch-22 situation. But I'm going to tell you, I'm an old school guy, and my thing is, do what you have to do to get in. Because once you get in, they're not going to put you out. So I don't believe in waiting. Whatever it takes. If you lose revenue for a year or two, so what? I mean, the league's going to subsidize you anyway. But what I'm saying is, I don't think you wait and try to wait a year or two. No, I think you get going and do what you have to do, whatever you have to pay, whatever concessions you lose, so what? Because I'm going to tell you what, Portland is one of the greatest towns. I lived in Portland for 26 years, and I miss it to this day. I mean, I loved my time in Portland, Oregon. I really did. And I'm going to tell you what, you don't realize what you miss until you don't have it. And when you're away from some place that I spent so much time in, and you realize how valuable it was and how important it was. But, things happen in life, and you have to make adjustments and make changes, and you have to live with them. But all I'm saying to the Portland community and the mayor and whoever's involved in this, do what you have to do to get the team, and then worry about the other things later. Because finding the place to play is not a problem. I mean, you can play at University of Portland. I mean, they got places you can play. You don't want to do that. You want to play in an arena like the Blazers do. I get all that. But the bottom line is get them here, figure the rest out later. Don't try to figure it out and then try to get them here later because, hey, I remember when they were supposed to get a team once that one league they had folded, and that never happened. So, and it could happen again. So all I'm saying, take the opportunity. Seattle's going to have a team. That rivalry will already be there. 2 new teams starting out. I wouldn't wait. I'd do whatever I had to do to get it done now.
Now, when I was talking to you earlier, I was asking you about, the key for being able to grow the game of women's basketball to create interest and drive up some of the TV ratings. But you told me that you think under the direction of Commissioner Adam Silver, you think that they're already moving in the right direction. How so?
Well, no question. I mean, I admire him so much. He's such a unique individual. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Adam Silver angry. Have you ever thought about that?
I've never seen him mad.
You've seen him. No, that's my point. And that is when you have that much control. I mean, and I'm going through, I can go back to 2 or 3 commissioners. That's how old I am. But my point is his temperament is what makes him so great. But I tell you what, if the right people are talking to him and tell him, look, we're going to make it work. We want to get this team in here and because I tell you one thing about Portland, which I love, is their fan base is incredible. Incredible. When I was working with Isaiah Ryder, and we had the Easy Rider program, and we brought kids to the game, and I mean, I'll never forget the fans were I mean, it's just something about the Portland fans. And don't get me wrong, I know it's tough right now because they haven't had the type of team they're used to having, but you give them a team to cheer for that can go out there and do what they're capable of doing. And I tell you what, the fans will show up, and they're rabid fans, and they support the team, and they care about the Trailblazers. And I don't know what the name of the women's team is going to be, but they will do that because the one thing women give you is they give you an effort. And see, they may not be as talented as men, but I tell you what, that's changing a lot because you got some young ladies now that can give it to you. And, I mean, they can do everything a guy can do. And that wasn't there 10, 15 years ago. It's there now.
Yeah, and you mentioned this too. What about the influence of some of the women we're seeing on TV around the game of basketball, people like Candace Parker and so forth, and Doris Burke, who are, I think, doing a good job of sharing the game with others, but also helping to get some younger ladies involved and interested in the game too.
Well, people don't understand, but I heard this. I don't know. I can't say that I know this for a fact, but this was a couple of years ago, and they actually said and this was, I don't know who took this survey, but you probably have more women at NBA basketball games you have men. So what do you think is going to happen if the WNBA comes in there and does a great job?
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have the women they're going to come. Even if they go to Portland Trailblazers games, they're going to come. But then the men are going to come too. So I'm just telling you, I just think I would not wait. I'm just telling that I would not wait. I wish I could get to Wyden or whoever is in charge of that. Take the team, get it now, find a place for them to play. Silver's going to work with you, but don't wait. That's just my opinion. Don't wait because you never know what can happen.
We're talking with John Phillips here on Game Day. I wanted to ask you, because you've got an extensive background in coaching and you spent a lot of time working with people over the years. The Blazers are going through a rebuild right now. Chauncey Billups is working with some youngsters. He and his staff have got to do a lot of teaching, and the two youngsters in particular right now are Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp. What is the key to working with young basketball players who lack experience to get them on the same page in terms of what you're trying to do on both ends of the floor, offense and defense as a team, but also working with them to develop those skills as individuals to improve their game?
Well, the one thing that most people need to understand, and I know the NBA a lot of times you get the one-on-one situations and you got guys who go one-on-one, but basketball is a team game. So those two young men that you mentioned, I trust your judgment enough to know that they're going to be good players. But the point is you have to get a team and everybody has to be on the same page, especially when you're rebuilding. Chauncey is a unique individual, and I'm so glad. I was so happy when he got that job. I just think that he might have to be, unless he has an assistant, a little fiery. But sometimes you got to get into him a little bit and let him know you mean business. And with him playing for Detroit, I know Chuck Daly was one of my best friends, and I go way back with Chuck Daly, so I know he knew how Chuck Daly would get in all of them, and he didn't care who you were. And if you ever watched the Michael Jordan story about when they went to the Olympics, hey, what did Chuck Daly do? Do you realize that Chuck Daly was the one that had the Pistons beating up on Michael when he was in Chicago?
That's right.
But when they went to Europe, what did he do? He said, "Mike, come, let's go play some golf."
Yeah.
Now, if nobody would have known anything, what would he be doing? Now, Chuck could play golf. Now, he came to my golf tournament. You remember we put on the NBA Golf Classic 2 years in a row in Portland. But my point is, he knew that Michael didn't like him because of what happened with Detroit. Yeah. But he took Michael to what he loves best. They think basketball. No, Michael loves to play golf. But what it did, that was the way he got to Michael. And they played every day for the first 4 or 5 days that they were there. And he got that little inside with Mike. And what happened? Michael took over the team, and the rest is history. But I'm looking at that with Chauncey Billups. Is I just hope that he remembers what he got from Chuck Daly and apply that, because it doesn't matter how you coach or whose system you use or take this from that guy, as long as it works. You're trying to get your kids you can't wait 2 or 3 years to have them. No, you got to get them out there now. And you got to get them playing hard, and that's the key thing. And I know he'll do that, but if you get them playing hard and playing consistently, you may not win them all, but you're going to make those steps. And a year from now, you might see a whole different story.
And one more question I want to ask you before you go. We lost one of the former Trailblazers and a great basketball player, Walter Davis, the Greyhound, who passed away this week at the age of 69. What do you remember about Walt?
He was – you hear me talk about these guys, but it's different era. When I came up, I was the last cut twice. I got cut by the 76ers and the Bullets, and it was so hard for me because I played with all those guys, and that's what made it so successful. I was so successful with Nike because all the guys that I tried to get in the shoe were guys I played against in college. But the bottom line is you just have to always, a guy like him. He was so, I guess the word is endearing, because he was always good to everybody. I don't remember hearing anybody ever say anything bad about Walter Davis, ever. In all the years I was around the NBA and the things I did, but he was just a good guy. But he played hard, and he played with passion. And those are things when I see in a player, because, you hear a lot of times, Chad, they'll say, "Oh, this guy's really good." But I want to see if he loves it.
Yeah.
Because you'd be surprised the guys that have talent, they play because they almost have to because they're so good, but they don't love it. And when you don't love it, big difference. And you can tell the ones that do.
John, a lot of people don't know, but you were on the ground floor with Nike, creating the relationship between the company and the NBA and bringing players in. What year was that when you first got involved? Was that back in the 70s or early 80s? What year?
Hey, I started with Nike in 1971.
Wow.
And I tell you what, it was Phil Knight. You know, I wasn't. You know, we didn't finish on a great note, and that's my personal business. I don't need to go into that, but I love Phil Knight. Phil Knight gave me an opportunity back in those days. I was working for Puma, believe it or not. I was the one getting Clyde Frazier's shoes, and Laverne Tart, who was a good friend of mine, he got me in with Puma. But I did such a job. I got the different. You know, we got Reggie Jackson his first pair. You know, he was the first guy to ever wear a shoe. You know, their owner, I'm trying to remember his name, the old man before he passed away, but of the Oakland A's. But anyway, he made the guys wear white shoes. I don't know, you may not remember that because you're a younger guy, but the Oakland A's were the first team to ever wear white shoes. Well, Reggie Jackson and I were, you know, got to be pretty good friends because down in Oakland, then when he first came to Oakland. And I told him, I said, man, I had some shoes. I literally took a pair of shoes and had the top taken off, the Nike shoes, the Senorita Cortez, and I put a baseball bottom on them. And I tell you what, he wore those shoes, and the next thing you know, no, I'm saying Senorita Cortez. I'm talking about when I was at Puma, but the whole point was I put a Puma top on just a baseball cleat, and he wore them, and they finally developed a great shoe for him, and he made millions of dollars wearing shoes for Puma.
Wow, that's awesome.
You know, that's what got me started. And then a guy named Paul Gams down in the Bay Area, he introduced me to Nike, and they flew me up to meet Phil Knight and the guys, and the rest was history.
But was the owner named Charlie Finley?
Yes, Charlie Finley.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Charlie O, that's what they call it, Charlie O. Finley.
Well, one of my favorite stories you told me about broadcasting, you said you were calling a high school game once, and the official made a really bad call, and it was so bad that you were like, what the bleep are you doing? And then you thought real quick, like, oh, no, I'm on the air. So you pulled your headset off, you turned around and said, hey, be quiet, I'm doing a live broadcast. That way the station manager wouldn't get mad at you.
Hey, you got to think on your feet. And see, that was the problem I always had is being an ex-player.
Yeah.
You just have that in you. You can't hold it in. And, you know, but those things happen. And I'm sure you've had it happen to you, but you just can't help it because especially officiating was something I loved. I did it for 32 years. I loved it. But when you know something's not going right, and, I mean, I remember when I was really strong with the Golden State Warriors before I moved up to Portland. Al Attles is one of my best friends. And I went to I was with Nike then, and I went to all the Warrior games, and he heard me getting on the refs. He said, John, do me a favor, will you? He said, if you're going to get on the refs, go down there and sit at the bench of the Clippers. Don't sit behind us. Make them think it's the Clipper coach doing it and not me.
Oh, that's so
but
good.
There's a lot of great stories, man. I'm so blessed to have lived the life that I have. I'm 77 years old now. I'm in good health. I'm a cancer survivor, and I tell you, you know, God is just good, and I'm glad I'm here. And I moved to South Carolina. I got 9 grandkids, and 8 of them are in South Carolina. And my wife and I were in the Bay Area, and we said, you know what? We fly out here 4 or 5 times a year in South Carolina. I live in Clemson, South Carolina. And finally, I just said, let's go. And so we moved out a year ago, July, and I'm loving it, man. I'm loving it. I see my grandkids at least every couple of weeks and spoil them rotten. And tell you what, it is great. I mean, it's nothing like it. Nothing like it, Chad. I can't wait till you get there and when your son starts bringing you grandkids home, and you're gonna see what I'm talking about.
That's amazing, man. No, it's great. I you know this. I love you, and you've been so key in my life and in my career. So I can't thank you enough. I want to get you on again soon because I want to put pressure on you to write the book that you're thinking about writing. It needs to happen.
Well, I tell you what. I'm going to tell you one thing that is going on right now. My son-in-law, and he's from Portland. He met my daughter in Portland, Zach Barjona. Everybody knew him as Zach Harris. Mm-hmm. But he is starting a program that he's been working on for over 20 years. It's called Haboo Time. I want you to Google it, Haboo Time. And I am going to do a show on there because, you know, with my background on PDX Sportsline and the radio and all the stuff there, and I gave him this idea, and he thought it was great. I'm going to do the book on the show first for the kids. This is all about kids. And I'm going to leave you with this one. I grew up in the projects of West Oakland, California. And I remember my dad telling me, you can do anything you want to do if you want to do it bad enough. Now, you take a kid out of the projects of West Oakland that can be the first African-American man in management and shoe company in the world with Nike, then you can do anything. And that's what that's what my message on my show is going to be. And this is going to be a national program, but I'm going to preach to kids. And this has nothing to do with color. This is all kids we care about and love. Never let anybody tell you what you can't do, because you can do anything you want to do if you want to do it bad enough.
That's
and
awesome.
It's called Haboo Time. So Google it, because it's out there now. And we're only a couple of months away. He's been working this for 20 years, believe it or not. That's when he got the idea. But and then I'm going to have you on my show, Chad.
Yes, that's right. Call me up.
Yeah, I'm gonna get. Oh, I am. I'm gonna get you back in it because, and again, it's just about stories, because our kids are our future, man. They always have been, and especially with all the craziness going on now with the Republicans, the Democrats, and all this stuff, man, we got to get our kids focused on doing the right thing and letting them know that they can do whatever they want to do if they want to do it bad enough.
All right, John Phillips here on Game Day as we get ready for the Blazers and Grizzlies. I love you, John. Thank you so much for your time. It's great to catch up with you, buddy. Give my best to your family.
Will do. Keep doing what you're doing, Chad.
All right, you got it. There he is, John Phillips here on Blazers Game Day. Love that man. That guy right there is the reason why I'm sitting here today. And he is. He was the first guy to step into Nike and bring in the NBA guys into the company for Phil. And he's got stories up on stories. All right, we'll come back and we'll give you a scoreboard report, and we'll keep the chatter going. 503-248-0620. It's Game Day here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right now, third quarter in Indiana, the Pacers lead the Cavaliers 72-59. Miles Turner, 24 points and 7 rebounds. Second quarter in Milwaukee, Bucks on top of the Knicks, 36-32. Crowder has 9 points. That game is on ESPN. First quarter in Miami, Wizards on top of the Heat, 23-20. First quarter in Chicago, Nets on top of the Bulls, 30-22. First quarter in OKC, the Warriors on top of the Thunder, 27-23. Steph Curry, 6 points early for the Warriors. Second half of that ESPN doubleheader, the Mavericks are in Denver to take on the Nuggets. Denver favored by 5.5. And a matchup of stars, Doncic averaging 33 points, 10 boards, and 9 assists. And Jokic right now, 26 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. And tonight at Moda Center, 7 o'clock tip, the Grizzlies and Trailblazers. Memphis favored by 3.5. And right now, Shaedon Sharpe off to a strong start. 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. And Desmond Bane leading the way for the Grizzlies at 24 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. The Trailblazers coming off that win over the Pistons, 110-101, and it was all about the defense. They held the Pistons to 42 points on 37% shooting in that second half, and they got multiple guys to step up and make a contribution. Let's take a listen to Chauncey Billups.
How proud of these guys are you and the resiliency that they show?
Super proud. We talked all day today of what was going to take for us to win this game, and I just kept saying the team that wins the hustle game is going to win the game. Two similar teams play extremely hard, try to get out and go, and I said that's what it's going to come down to. It's not about schemes. It's who's going to win the hustle game. And in the first half, they beat up on us. They really did. And I really got after our guys and challenged them at halftime because it's what we talked about. And we came out and just turned it around, and Shaedon was incredible. We got on his back. I thought Jeremy was big time, but DA, I mean, he was a presence in there. His rebound, he gets 5 steals in the game. Our bench continues to really hold us in there. Big Rob, was happy to have him back. But Tumani and Malcolm, those guys were really good. So we needed everybody.
26 points for Shaedon in the second half. Can you just expand more on his game? And he had a big defensive play, knocked the ball off Hayes' knee there, crunch time. So it seemed like he played point, I think, for you in the fourth quarter a lot too.
We did. We used him a lot as a playmaker. And Shaedon was great the entire second half, with the exception of one play, he turned the ball over, trying to get it to DA when we was in good shape and he was rolling. We was playing through him and just got a little lazy. Didn't understand the moment. So that's a great teaching moment for him. But Shaedon was awesome. I got a little mad at him. He gave up a couple back doors, a couple offensive rebounds, which is unacceptable, for Shaedon. We know he's going to be capable of these kind of offensive nights, but I'm demanding a lot from him on both sides of the floor, and when he doesn't, which is what you've seen at the end of the first half, where I took him in and scoot out. No, this game might be too big for y'all. So I took him right out and let the other guys finish, and they were ready to go and put him back in the second half.
How is Scoot?
Sore. I'm not sure, how bad it is, but he was the first one, just typical Scoot. He was the first one outside the locker room, congratulating everybody, giving everybody high fives. So I'm not sure, but I know he's really sore. For him not to come back into the game, it says a lot.
What do you been really high on Shea, and you've also been really expecting a lot from him.
Yeah.
What's the balance between when you see a night like this, and then you were just talking about a few of the mistakes that he made, but he carried you guys on the back end to a win? What's the teaching and coaching?
Yeah, well, the balance is that I'm gonna be consistent with him. So he's gonna have these kind of nights where he carries us, but I don't just coach offense. I coach him. I want him to be a great player, and I think all great players play both sides of the ball. And he's young, and he's in that phase where I'm trying to mold him. So I'm not gonna let up on him. him or Scoot or these young guys. I can't let up on him because I'll be doing him a disservice. But he's going to be a star, and he's going to appreciate that one day. That I did hold him to a certain standard, every single day, because he tells me he wants to be great. Well, there's a price to pay for that, So I'm going to be consistent with Shaden, and all of our young guys are just kind of who I am, period. But I'm so proud of him. I don't want you to take it any other way. I'm proud as hell of him. He played 42 minutes in this game, and have to carry us on the offensive end. I mean, it's not easy, but he's capable.
You mentioned DA as well. I think we've seen these last couple games. Really seems like we're getting a good idea of just who he is as a player.
He's starting to relax a lot more. We're starting to find him in his sweet spots a lot more. Him and Scoot, I thought they were really good today in the pick and roll, and Scoot and everybody kind of finding him in that pocket. We just kind of getting to know each other. So he is. I thought he was really good defensively out there, and he's starting to show us, what he's capable of.
How big of in the second half tonight and 2 nights ago? You just talked about offense, but how key was your defense in that second half?
It was what won us the game. It really was. It was what won us the game. We got really scrappy. Cade really hurt us in the first half, and a little bit of third quarter. I thought Tourney came in there and physically was able to match him, and contest his shots, and he wasn't really running through him. He was able to match him step for step, and I thought he did a good job of just making him work, making him work for those shots. And the shots that he made, he had to earn. So that was a big deal for us. And then, other guys, we just did a good job of getting some loose balls and getting some deflections, turning it over, finishing our defensive possessions with rebounds was a big thing for us.
All right, there's Coach Billups. A couple of things, takeaways, and it's all good. But first off, I think Dwight had talked about this maybe before the season began. But it's important when you have young players, guys like Scoot and Shaden, where you want them to become complete players. And I agree with Chauncey's assessment of what makes a great player in the NBA. In order to be great, you need to be able to do it on both ends of the floor. You can be a great offensive player, but if you want to be one of the all-time greats or be a great player in the NBA, you need to be able to do it both ways. It's critical. You don't want to be the guy that everyone knows you can't get a stop defensively and they target you or you become a weakness for your team. That's not a good place to roll. So in order to become great, you have to be willing to have consequences for your young stars. And that includes both Scoot and Shaden. And you've got to be willing to do that because it will communicate to them that, hey, yeah, you're good, but there's a certain way that you need to do things to get to the level that we expect for you and that you expect from yourself. So at the end of the first half, he pulled Scoot and Shaden from the game. I was like, yeah, this moment, you're not ready for it. It's too big for you. So you communicate the message that, hey, if you continue in these type of errors, then we're going to put someone else in the game. Now, when he went back to him, they responded with better play. And look at Shaden Sharp, who, as he mentioned, played 42 minutes, but he scored 26 of his 29 in the second half. That's good. That's responding to a little bit of discipline, which is going to be needed from Coach Billups. And I think that's the way it has to be done. Now, the defense, this is encouraging. You want this team to make strides defensively because over the last 4 or 5 years, they've just been garbage, hot garbage, nearly dead last in the NBA. You can't be taken seriously when you don't play defense. But the last couple of games, we've seen multiple guys involved. DeAndre Ayton, Toumani Camara in his play, and we heard about what he was able to do defensively, and we saw it against Cade Cunningham. And you've got these guys working together, even Shaden responding to some of the mistakes he made and picked his intensity up defensively as well. So that's very good. So, when we talk about a rebuilding effort and the youth and the teaching and the coaching from the coaching staff, they've got to continue to move forward and get incremental growth from these guys. And we've seen it over the last couple of games, which is great. So props to them. And Toumani Camara, give him credit for the way he's working his tail off and putting pressure on the coaches to put him in the games because when he gets out there, he works hard. All right, we'll come back, and when we do, it's time for What's the Scoot, where we'll focus in on Scoot Henderson a bit. I'm going to let you hear a bit of Scoot, so when you hear his voice and where he's at, you understand that he's not hanging his head, even though it's been a rough start for him through 5 games. But we have seen better play over the last couple of games. He's not freaking out like a lot of people in Rip City are. No, he's too confident for that. All right, Blazers, Grizzlies coming up. Tip-offs is at 7. I'm Chad Doing. You've got Game Day here on 620 Rip City Radio. Be sure to go to YouTube. You can join the live stream. Go to youtube.com, pull up the homepage, Rip City Radio 620, subscribe, and you can join 5th quarter tonight following the game. And starting on Tuesday, Rip City Mornings, Rip City Drive, Blazer Game Day, 5th quarter, Courtside Mondays. All of our local shows will be live streamed.
Scoot. First win in the books. First win in the books. How does it feel? Scoot. First.
All right, no Scoot Henderson tonight. He's going to sit this one out with that right ankle sprain. But as I mentioned, the people I spoke with, it's not serious. In fact, one person told me that he was moving around without crutches or any type of support after the game Wednesday against Detroit, so that's good. He did play 20 minutes, 11 points, 7 assists, and 3 turnovers. That was a good sign based on what we had seen in Toronto. So he's, playing better basketball. Obviously, nowhere near what, we want to see him at, but he's getting better with each progressive game, and that's fine. Now, I did see after the first 3 games, people were really freaking out over the turnovers. He hadn't really adjusted to the NBA game, and he had been struggling, and people were concerned. I think the vocal minority very concerned, but I'm not worried about Scoot at all. What are we, 5 games in? It's very early in his NBA career. I'm not worried about Scoot at all, but most importantly, I'm not worried because this is a confident young man, and this is after the Toronto game. He didn't speak after the Detroit game, but take a listen to Brooke Olzendam with Scoot. Just take a listen to his focus, his demeanor. This does not sound like someone that's freaking out or is hanging his head. It just sounds like a confident young man that knows with time and work, everything's going to come together. Take a listen to Scoot. Brooke Olzendam with Scoot.
Scoot, first win in the books. How does it feel?
It feels good to win, always. For the first one, though, it feels great, kind of give us that image of what we have to do in being able to win. We obviously know we got a ton of things to still work on. We're still building chemistry. But, first one, it's always good.
A lot of your teammates just said they think this was your best game yet. Do you agree?
Yeah, but far from who I am, though, still. It was my best game because, I set the standard of what my early games was. But I think I've just grown a lot from those games, and I'm ready to hit the road running now. So,
when you say it's not to your standard, what are a few things you personally would like to shore up moving forward?
Less turnovers, just better communication on offense at least. Knowing where my teammates like the ball, how I can still contribute in that form. Seeing those kick passes to the corner every single time, I usually hit those, and but lately I've just been struggling to try to get that over there. But I feel my rhythm to kind of get there, so I'm just ready for next game for real.
In general, how would you feel like this first week has gone for you? And I think it feels like it's been longer than that, but it has only been a week.
It's been a week, bro? Damn. Dang. Man, the beginning of something special. It's always downs and ups and downs or whatever, and the beginning of a long season, my first year. So, but, this week has been huge mentally for me, knowing that I had a lot of buzz or whatever, but I never really kind of looked at it that way. I never paid attention to whatever the media is saying about how I was playing the first few games. I just focused on, film and getting better, My expectations for myself was already at a high standard, so I can only imagine what everybody else is trying to think of me, so I really don't care what anybody on the outside says. As long as everybody in here knows that I'm trying to get better for each other, for them, that's all. I'm good. I can go to sleep at night. So.
You did just kind of mention, I know you're not really paying attention to it, but do you feel it at all, or do you kind of feel like it's out there a little bit? Because you're right. Like, I think people have really high expectations for you, and it's not like you've been playing bad, but maybe just not what people thought right off the jump. So
it's not what I thought either. Something new for me. I never went through something like this, but I'm ready. I'm ready now. I can tell, Portland, I'm ready to go now. I was ready before, but, it was just some unexpected things that I had to get right quick. And I'm glad it happened now before, some people say the rookie wall or whatever, so I can, just burst through that and just get the season going now. This is the start of the season, in my book, so.
Can we talk a little bit more about your game tonight? It seemed like, particularly in that third quarter, I think you had 4 or 5 assists in the third quarter alone, and it just seems like almost quarter to quarter, like you can see that you're I don't know, figuring things out, but it seems like it's coming easy.
Yeah, that's how I see the game, one quarter at a time. I missed a lot of shots, a lot of just open shots I know I can make, but I'm always just trying to focus on the next shot, next possession, whether that's on defense, trying to get a stop on my defender, or while I'm defending, or just trying to move the ball, trying to get in the paint and attack, do what I do, and spray, get my team going. As a point guard should, and player I want to be, that's somebody I want to be, somebody that's, attacking and looking out for my teammates, trying to get them the ball in certain spots, and also just doing what I love to do. But, yeah.
All right, there you go. There's Scoot Henderson. I mean, do you hear what I hear? You understand what I'm saying? I don't – there's no panic there. I mean, he's not disturbed after a slow start to the season. No, that's a guy that's, got his dome screwed on straight, and he's focused on the details, the little things that are required to get better. And that's good. You don't want him hanging his head. Just keep working. I mean, he knows things are going to pop. The game's going to continue to slow down for him, too. He'll see things differently. He'll have a better feel for the defense. His angles, especially in the passing lanes, he's going to be just fine. Now, the shooting will take time. He's not a great shooter, so that's going to require a lot of individual work for him to get to the level where he can, knock down those shots. Because you know what the defense is going to do? They're going to back off him, especially as he continues to excel at, penetration and kickouts. They're going to back off him, encourage him to shoot. So it's his job to work on his game to get his offense to a level where he can take advantage of those opportunities and then put more stress on the defense. But overall, what I'm trying to say is that he's in a good spot mentally. He's going to be fine. And as we watch him, I really believe you're going to be able to see the incremental growth, whether it be game to game or week to week. You're going to see him continue to take strides as he gets a better feel for everything and everything starts to slow down. It's going to be nice. But I like his mindset. He's not worried. Quarter to quarter, he understands what the coaches want him to do, and he's just getting a better feel for it. And now he's got to cut down on turnovers and continue to work. And then just like Coach wants to, he's got to stay engaged defensively. So I'm a fan of Scoot's mindset and his makeup, and I think that's going to take him places. All right, we'll keep things rolling here. We'll come back on game day, and when we do, I'll give you my keys to the game. Mike Lynch standing by with your Trailblazer pregame show. I'll be back after the game tonight with fifth quarter, and we'll break down everything that takes place on the court tonight. All right, tip-off's coming up at 7. Blazers and Grizzlies here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, couple of keys for tonight's game for you. First off, it's an opportunity for Shaden Sharp to get off. The Grizzlies right now are struggling at the point of attack. They're not playing good defense, and Shaden Sharp's going to be in a position to be the lead guard tonight, control the offense, set up his teammates, and look for his own offense. So I want him to be aggressive. I expect Shaden Sharp to be the game-high scorer tonight if he continues to play the way that we've seen. I think also tonight's a great opportunity for the Blazers to continue to get DeAndre Ayton more involved. He's had back-to-back solid games, career high 23 rebounds in the victory over Toronto, and then 16 points, 11 boards, and 5 steals against Detroit in the victory. And tonight he's taken on a team that is a bit undersized, which is a bit of an issue. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a great defender, but he does lack size. The Grizzlies lack experience after Jaren Jackson Jr., so I think it's an opportunity to continue to allow Ayton to be a decision maker and get to some space and be able to make things happen. So keep an eye on that. But if the Blazers can do those things, they've got a chance to grab a win. In fact, tonight and on Sunday against the Grizzlies, with their current state of affairs, they got a chance to make things happen. All right, 3 facts for you. Number 1, Shaden Sharp must start moving forward. And I'm talking about when Anthony Simons returns. So I don't care what your solution is. My guess would be just drop Matisse Thybulle and put Shaden Sharp in the starting lineup. But you've got to start him. He's earned it. And the most important thing is to get Scoot and Shaden as many minutes as possible so they can continue to develop. Also, Tamani Kamara and Jabari Walker are the 2 most important players on the Blazers bench. For Coach Billups, their energy and their effort and willingness to defend has been critical and I think infectious with this group. And finally, the NBA has done a horrific job of explaining the in-season tournament to both the players and the fans. Part of the reason why no one really cares about it is because we have no idea what's going on. So come on, NBA, step your game up. Hey, Commissioner Silver, if this in-season tournament is so important to you, make sure the fans understand what they're watching and why it's important. All right, that's going to do it for us. Big thanks to Michael Shacker, John Phillips, and all of you for listening and watching on YouTube. Join me after the game. Tip-off's coming up at 7. Mike Lynch has got your Blazer pregame show next.